Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. That wasn't very good. Let's try it again. Good morning. One more time. Good morning. All right. Everybody come in, settle down, grab your seats. I am Tavis Smiley, and we are live right now on KBLA Talk 1580. We'll be live for the next 3 hours for this candidate forum. We are live from the California Science Center, the Donald P. Locher Conference Center, here in Expo Park for the 34th Annual Summit of the Empowerment Congress, featuring this nonpartisan forum for candidates running for California governor. Please, by round of applause, I want the audience to hear that you're actually in the room. So give me some applause. Applause. For those listening on radio, they know that you are here. We got a room full of guests and a stage full of candidates here in just a moment. This forum features 8 candidates running for governor in an open seat. There is no incumbent this time around, of course. Current Governor Gavin Newsom is termed out and now ineligible to run again. Under California election law, the top 2 vote getters in the June primary, regardless of party affiliation, will face off in the general election come November. The winner of the November election will hold the state's highest elective office and be responsible for guiding the world's 4th largest economy. Obviously, we have a whole lot to talk about today, a lot of important business to cover this next 3 hours. But first, we're going to hear from our Empowerment Congress Summit co-chair, Arna Fulcher, and I'll be back to set the stage, literally and figuratively, for the next 3 hours. Please welcome Arna Fulcher. Good, man.
Thank you, Tavis. Good morning. All right now, good morning. On behalf of the Empowerment Congress, I would like to welcome all of you to the 34th Annual Summit of the Empowerment Congress. My name is Arna Fulcher, and I am a member of the Empowerment Council Leadership Council and chair of the summit. It is a pleasure to extend greetings on behalf of Leadership Council members and EC activists who have joined us in what has become a signature gathering and observance of the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. holiday weekend. Our theme for the day is From Vision to Action, a forum to unlock participatory democracy. We hope it is a worthy tribute to the historical figure who sought to redeem the soul of America when he founded the Southern Christian Leadership Conference almost 7 years ago. We'd like to acknowledge the talented musicians from the Inner City Youth Orchestra of Los Angeles who performed the live entertainment earlier this morning. These talented young musicians are no strangers to the Empowerment Congress, and we are happy to have them return this year to contribute some cultural flavor to the serious business we intend to conduct. Let's give it up again for them. Thank you. Before we begin the summit, there are a few items of immediate business that we need to mention. 1, please turn off or silence your cell phones unless you're recording or using social media. If you are using social media, please consider using these hashtags, hashtag EC Summit 34 and hashtag Empowerment Congress that appear on the screens. Candidate biographies and other program information may be found by scanning the QR code in the program booklet on page 2. The California Science Center seeks to stimulate curiosity and inspire science learning in everyone by creating fun, memorable experiences. The Science Center is a state of California resource accessible to all. It values science as an indispensable tool for understanding our world and enriching people's lives. Representing the Science Center is a longtime friend and supporter of the Empowerment Congress and past member of the Leadership Council, Ms. Monique Hudson. Monique, if you're in the room, please wave your hand. She's the Senior Vice President for Government Affairs and Chief Diversity Officer. Let's give her a round of applause like you appreciate diversity. We'd also like to take a moment to acknowledge my colleagues in the Leadership Council who have organized this signature event. Leadership Council members, please stand, and let's give them a round of applause. Won't you? We would now like to take a moment to view our video about the Empowerment Congress. Few things are more precious to Empowerment Congress organizers than your time, talent, and treasure. We appreciate your attendance and participation in this event. The Empowerment Congress was born in the wake of the Rodney King beating trial verdict and experiences arising from the subsequent civil unrest and rebuilding efforts. The work of the Empowerment Congress continues its original focus to encourage civic engagement rooted in historic of African American community practices of participatory democracy, reciprocal accountability, and intentional civility. Our work focuses, though not exclusively, on communities boasting the highest concentrations of African Americans in both the city and county of Los Angeles. Our work builds on the local community's expressions of self-reliance, self-determination, self-governance, self-improvement, and most important, selflessness. Our work rests on a rich legacy of social responsibility, informed decision, informed discourse, and multiracial solidarity in pursuit of social justice. The Empowerment Congress applies its civic engagement mission to civic education, organizing, community building, and advocacy around issues of government reform and governance, homelessness and housing affordability, neighborhood improvement, and support for evidence-based public policy. Following its Educate, Engage, and Empower motto, Empowerment Congress activists and volunteers have been committed to three main goals for over 3 decades: demystifying government, encouraging public participation, and identifying civic engagement opportunities to fulfill our obligation as citizens. We do this through working groups that organize public events and advocacy efforts, produce educational presentations, and conduct dialogues to promote understanding and civil exchange of opinion. Our aim is simple: to harness our agency as individuals in order to improve the quality of life in communities where we live and work, promote social justice, pursue equity in the distribution of resources, and advocate for greater public accountability and transparency. Our guiding principles can be summed up as follows: reciprocal accountability, intentional civility, and participatory democracy. The acronym is RIP. We're going to rip this apart. This is what today's gathering is about. Please consider joining these efforts. To learn more about the Empowerment Congress or to make a financial contribution to support our work, go to the EC website, empowermentcongress.org, or scan the QR code.
Few things are more precious to Empowerment Congress organizers than your time, talent, and treasure.
I've said repeatedly my objective in helping to facilitate the Empowerment Congress is essentially to demystify government, to make it more clear, more available, more accessible, indeed more accountable to the people that it should represent. But accountability, get this now, is not simply a one-way street. It is mutual. That means that if you want me as your elected official, your supervisor, to step up, then you've got to be right there with me to make what needs to happen happen.
We appreciate your attendance and participation in this event. The Empowerment Congress was born in the wake of the Rodney King beating trial verdict, and experiences arising from the subsequent civil unrest and rebuilding efforts. The Empowerment Congress continues its original focus to encourage civic engagement rooted in the historic African American community practices of participatory democracy, reciprocal accountability, and intentional civility. This work focuses, though not exclusively, on communities boasting the highest concentrations of African Americans in both the city and county of Los Angeles. Our work builds on the local community's expressions of self-reliance, self-determination, self-governance, self-improvement, and selflessness. Our work rests on a rich legacy of citizen empowerment, informed discourse, and multiracial solidarity in pursuit of social justice.
Look, this country is at a crossroads. It's a crossroads we as Black people have known in the past. It's now a crossroads that the entire country knows. But this is the thing about chaos and cruelty and corruption, is that Juneteenth reminds us that we are our future. We can author it, we can lead it, we are powerful, and that is how we're going to get through it.
Power is the ability to control or influence the control, development, allocation, and distribution of resources. Power, in and of itself, does not exist in isolation, nor is it inherent in individuals, but is created in individual, familial, communal, and political relationships by their collective action. Empowerment is the notion that individuals gain power through their agency and collectively with others by engaging and becoming active in their communities and their government.
By sharing your voice, by participating in these conversations, you are continuing Dr. King's footsteps and advancing justice here in our community.
The Empowerment Congress applies its civic engagement and empowerment mission to civic education, organizing, community building, and advocacy around issues of government reform and governance, homelessness and housing affordability, neighborhood improvement, and support for evidence-based public policy. Following its Educate, Engage, and Empower motto, Empowerment Congress activists and volunteers have been committed to three main goals for over 3 decades: demystifying government, encouraging public participation, and identifying civic engagement opportunities to fulfill our obligation as citizens. We do this through working groups that organize public events and advocacy efforts, produce educational presentations, and conduct dialogues to promote understanding and civil exchange of opinion. Our aim is simple: to harness our agency as individuals in order to improve the quality of life in communities where we live and work, promote social justice, pursue equity in the distribution of resources, and advocate for greater public accountability and transparency. That is what today's gathering is about. Annual summits and Juneteenth observances are EC signature events organized by the Leadership Council. The candidates who are running for governor are seeking election to the highest office in state government in the most populous state. That is why we have assembled them today. Please consider joining Empowerment Congress civic engagement efforts. To learn more about the Empowerment Congress or to make a financial contribution to support our work, go to the EC website, empowermentcongress.org, or scan the QR code.
All right. Now that you know why you're here, I would like to say thank you. But it is now my distinct pleasure to introduce the founder of the Empowerment Congress, Dr. Mark Ridley Thomas.
Oh, come on now. Stevie's in the house.
People keep on learning. Soldiers,
Yeah.
keep on moving.
Yeah.
World, keep on turning. 'Cause it
All right.
won't be too long.
Like Dr. Marcus Cosby would say, that's enough. All right. Let me now say to you that we are delighted that you are here. This is the 34th Annual Empowerment Congress Summit, because Stevie Wonder declared it. We're moving to higher ground. We are now convened for business. We have a tradition we won't deviate. Repeat after me: educate, engage, and empower. I think you can do just a little bit better than that. Educate, engage, and empower. Now clap your hands as an indication of your good faith, your commitment to seeking higher ground, and the noble tradition of nonviolence in celebration of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. weekend. Dr. King posed a question: where do we go from here, chaos or community? Some may want to sharpen and update our inquiry by simply asking, in light of the current realities, why are we here? Well, I'm glad you asked. And I want to say we're here because we're determined. We're here because we are unapologetic. We are here to educate, engage, and empower. Let me just say it like I mean it, and we ain't gonna let nobody turn us around. Michael Dr. King would say, we declare that his truth is marching on. His truth is marching on. And so I think it's important to realize that part of what we are here to do is to externalize our resilience. So this summit is critical because it's featuring candidates for governor of this state. And you know what? That matters. We're here because we matter. They matter, and we matter. We're here to say our lives matter and our votes count. You do know that these candidates for governor want to lead the nation's largest state and helm California's executive branch, wielding vast power to set priorities, shape policies, and allocate resources, empower constituencies, and influence public opinion. They want to do all that and then some. This role impacts a wide variety of things, Pastor Jeremy, a wide variety of things. Trade policy, climate change, technological innovation, Madam Congresswoman, all of that. Artificial intelligence, you know. Can anybody say AI in here? Yeah, you know what I'm saying. So the question is, I have to look on the screen to see if that's an artificial rendition of who I am. I'm trying to keep it all together as best I can. Am I doing all right? So the question is posed once again, why are we here? I want to say we're here for business, the people's business. Those for whom, what people? Those for whom Martin Luther King fought, bled, and died. We stand on business today, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, and our communities assert, Jim, that health care is a right and not a privilege. Health care is a right and not a privilege in the county, in the state, and indeed in the nation. Dr. King said it, and I embrace it, of all forms of inequality. Injustice in health care is the most shocking and inhumane. And so I think we've got to get to work. We've got to educate. We've got to engage. And we've got to empower. Now, none of this is possible without acknowledging the sponsors who have made this rather extraordinary effort happen. You'll see them on the backdrop. You'll see them in your program. You'll have a digital display of it as well, but they are here, and I want to recognize and acknowledge all our sponsors. If this day would just stand and take a bow, we would be glad to applaud them. Give them the appropriate amount. All the sponsors, don't be bashful. I see them. Jim Manja, United Faith Coalition, we see you. California Endowment, all of you. Do it again. Thank you so much. We're also grateful to a dedicated group of hardworking, civic-minded leaders who make the Empowerment Congress happen. And Arna did take the opportunity to acknowledge them, but I want to acknowledge them again out of deep appreciation. It's the EC Leadership Council, and I want them to stand again and be recognized. The co-chairs, Gloria Davis and Harry McElroy, oh, you ought to just stand up. They're rocking those nice little, Sit down, Dr. Crouch. You ain't on the EC. We put you off. You know that. We good. Nothing like a little levity. Got to laugh to keep from crying sometime. Am I right about that? So shout out to the core team of those workers, led by the one and only Vincent Harris, EC Project Director. I do not appreciate it when people applaud louder for him than they applaud for me, but it always happens, so eventually I'm going to get over it, but not today. Give him another round of applause, Vincent Harris. I want to make it plain, and I'm going to step aside quickly here. Our fiscal sponsor helps us cross all the T's and dot the I's. Community initiatives with Mamie Funahashi. Her team is here. Mamie, take a bow. We're glad that you're here. Our management group is TPG, Tammy Baker, celebrating 25 years as a small business owner, woman-owned business. Give them a round of applause. Michael Banner walks in. Everybody take a bow. Thank you, Your Honor. It takes a lot to make this happen. In other words, civic engagement requires an investment in raising our civic IQ. I often say, if you don't vote on Tuesday, don't you dare complain on Wednesday. No one does that better than our moderator for today's summit, Mr. Tavis Smiley. Tavis is a political and cultural commentator and best-selling author, and a familiar voice to many of us who listen to KBLA Talk Radio 1580 AM. Now in 50 markets across the nation. I did say now in 50 markets across the nation. He's its founder and chief visionary officer. I'd like for you to join me in welcoming back to the stage the one and only Tavis Smiley, my friend and brother.
Put your bad self. Say it loud.
Love you, man.
Say it loud. Look here. Some people say we got
too much. He's too much. One more time for MRT.
Yeah, we get what we deserve.
You know you're a bad man when they call you just by 3 letters, MRT. The Bible that I read says, today's Saturday, not Sunday, I'm going to preach just for 10 seconds here. The Bible I read says, where there is no vision, the people perish. Where there is no vision, the people perish. And it was 34 years ago that Mark Ridley Thomas had a vision to create something called the Empowerment Congress. And to my mind, there is no civic organization in the history of this city that's done the kind of work that the Empowerment Congress has done. We owe Mark Ridley Thomas, Dr. Mark Ridley Thomas, for that. So thank you, Mark. Thank you for being a visionary. It's a pleasure once again to join the Empowerment Congress for the 34th Annual Summit. Our theme this year is From Vision to Action, a forum to unlock participatory democracy, as you've already heard. I'm going to move through some of these comments to get these people on stage as quickly as I can, but these summits have become the signature policy-oriented civic engagement commemorations of the life and legacy of Dr. King, as you heard MR say a moment ago. I regard Dr. King, if you don't agree with me, meet me outside in the parking lot and we can fight it out afterwards, but I regard Dr. King as the greatest American this country has ever produced. That's my assessment. And so in the spirit of Dr. King, we gather here today on the King holiday weekend for this gathering of candidates for governor of California to see what they have to say about what they will do if, in fact, they are elected to the highest office in the Golden State. We are gathered today to learn something about the candidates and their point of view on a variety of issues that they'll be queried about here in just a moment. To help us do that, we have brought together a distinguished panel of veteran journalists to pose questions to the candidates. Let me introduce them right quick. They are seated in front of me here in the center of the room, facing the candidates so they can have eye-to-eye contact. Gustavo Arellano is here from the LA Times. Please welcome Gustavo. Lisa Collins is here from LA Focus. Please welcome Lisa Collins. And Frank Stoltz is here of KPCC and LAist. Please welcome Frank Stoltz. They have long bios. I'm going to encourage you to read more about them in the program booklets you receive in the interest of trying to save time, again, to get these candidates on stage as quickly as possible. Mark and Anna have already done a wonderful job of acknowledging our sponsors today. I won't do that once again, but I do want to acknowledge the Institute for Nonviolence in LA, Days of Dialogue, the United Faith Coalition, and the Honorable Councilmember Heather Hutt, LA Council District 10. Please thank all of them for making this possible. The other sponsors are in your program booklet. Again, just trying to usher this thing as quickly as I can, get these persons on stage, get this dialogue started. So other sponsors in your program booklet on page 1. But again, Mark and Anna mentioned them, and I want to just add my voice thanking all the sponsors who've made this day possible. This conversation is obviously live right now on radio, not just in LA, but KBLA is heard all across the country, as MRT mentioned a moment ago. And so the country now is getting a chance to hear from candidates here in California for governor. I should mention right now, and tell your friends, we're live right now until 12 noon. I'll explain that in just a second. But we're going to rebroadcast this debate, this forum, on Monday. So any of your friends who aren't here or not listening right about now, Monday from 4 to 7 p.m. on KBLA Talk 1580, we will rebroadcast this candidate forum for governor in California. So write that down. Tell your friends if they miss any of this today. Tune into our station on Monday, 4 to 7 p.m. on the King holiday for a rebroadcast of this entire forum. Again, that's Monday, 4 to 7, KBLA Talk 1580. I should also mention that while we will wrap this part of our program about 11 o'clock or so, in the final hour for those listening in LA or across the country, my colleague, Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, once the candidates leave the stage, will be in the green room behind the stage talking to many of the candidates and other special guests gathered here today to get their thoughts and reflections on the candidate forum over these next couple hours. But the final hour, again, my colleague, Dr. Quartey, will take over from me and be talking on the radio live to some of the candidates and others who are here today to get their thoughts, their reflections on the occurrence of today. You've already been told that you can use the hashtag EC Summit 34, hashtag Empowerment Congress, if you're using social media. We are fortunate now to have 8 of the major candidates in attendance, one of whom may emerge as the next governor of the Golden State. It is now our pleasure to introduce the candidates in alphabetical order. In interest of time and decorum, please hold your applause to all the candidates that have been introduced and they're on the stage. All right, let's go, y'all. The Honorable Javier Becerra, former U.S. Health and Human Services Secretary. Come on out, Javier. The Honorable Ian Calderon, former Assembly Member. John Slavitt, business leader and tech entrepreneur. Tom Steyer, environmental activist and business leader. The Honorable Eric Swalwell, member of Congress, California 14th District. The Honorable Tony Thurman, California Superintendent of Education, Public Instruction, I should say. The Honorable Antonio Villaraigosa, former mayor of the city of Los Angeles. The Honorable Betty Yee, former California State Controller. Now you can applaud them all. So, very quickly, again, I'm ready to get this thing started, but I've got to give you the rules so that you understand the rules. The candidates have already been told this backstage, but it is the way of the Empowerment Congress to make sure that you are fully aware and that we are transparent about the rules of our engagement. So very quickly, five rules. Each candidate will have the opportunity to make an opening statement of no more than 90 seconds. There's the clock for all the candidates. You see right in front of the panel, the podium, where you see the clock there, everybody? Okay, got it. Right in front of the journalists, there's the clock that they can see that will time them as they speak. So everybody draw your attention to that clock in front of the journalists in the center of the room. 90 seconds opening statements. Candidates will be asked a range of questions which have been selected based on input from attendees and our co-sponsors as well as members of the Empowerment Congress. Each candidate will be given 1 minute to respond to each question. Follow-up questions can be posed at the discretion of the moderator. I think that means me. If I feel they haven't answered, I'll jump in and force them to answer it, but I have discretion to do follow-ups if I feel the need to do so. If a candidate makes reference by name to another candidate on stage, that candidate will be afforded a minute to respond. Don't do it, y'all. Just don't do it. Don't give your opponent extra time. Just don't do it. That's my advice, but who am I? I'm just Tavis Smiley. The candidates appear on stage from left to right in alphabetical order, so you know how they actually got here. And the questions are presented to the candidates will be based on the order of their podium position, which means that Mr. Becerra will get the first question to answer first. The second question will go down the line. Okay, everybody got that? Those are the rules. Each candidate will be invited to make a 1-minute closing statement at the end. We invite them to prepare for that an hour and a half or so from now. We ask you again for decorum to kind of hold your applause. We're on radio. We don't want your applause to drown out the comments of the candidates so people can hear on radio all across the country. No candidate is permitted to display any prop or visual image while they are on this stage. I think that does it for all the rules. I'm ready to go. How about you? Yeah. All right. We begin now with opening statements, and opening statements are in this particular order. They pulled numbers, I should say, backstage for opening statements, and so the person who pulled number 1 is John Slavitt. So John Slavitt, you got 90 seconds. Go for it.
Good morning. All right. I am honored to be in this room and be with this community. My name is John Slavitt, and I'm running for governor with one big goal in mind. That's to uplift our working class and middle class citizens who've had it so hard in this state. The other thing I think is very important is to start calming the partisanship and division that has divided us, because we're all in this thing together. And to rebuild the state, we've got to do it together and come together. Thank you, Ugo. I've been a business person. I'm not a politician. I've been building businesses from small to big. I've created hundreds and hundreds of jobs, blue collar, white collar. In my last company, we offered flexible and affordable housing solutions in 19 states and many cities across the country. And I've got a plan that's common sense to reduce the cost of housing and rent and groceries, electricity and gas to help our working and middle class brothers and sisters. I'm also a dad, so I'm raising 5 kids in California, from 1 to 20. And I am still changing diapers pretty much every day of the campaign. So I am the mix, and this is personal. I believe that we can uplift every person in California. We need to do it. The state should not just be for the well-connected. And the last thing I'll say is, if something that I communicate connects with you or inspires you, I would love to shake your hand and make the connection and get your feedback. Thank you so much.
Thank you, John Slavitt. Second person for opening statements is Tony Thurman. Tony Thurman, 90 seconds, sir.
Thank you. Good morning. Buenos dias. Buenos dias. I want to thank the Empowerment Congress for always doing the work of those who have been historically underrepresented. As I think about the legacy and the work and the life of Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King, that's what he would want us to continue to do, to continue to support those. As I think about the work of Dr. King, my mind goes to my grandparents. My grandparents were immigrants. They cleaned bathrooms for a living. My grandparents coming from Panama, Colombia, Jamaica, and Detroit, Michigan, by way of Mississippi. Always looking for a way to do better. And as governor, I will continue to fight Trump and to support immigrants who simply want to have a chance to live the American dream. Just like the legislation that I passed to keep ICE out of our schools. There's no place for ICE in our schools. I've supported legislation to keep ICE out of our hospitals and emergency rooms. People shouldn't be afraid to see a doctor. And as governor, we'll continue to fight Trump and create a path to citizenship for those who simply want to pay taxes and support our country and live the American dream. Together, we'll build 2 million housing units. We'll subsidize housing for our homeless youth. I'm going to tax billionaires and turn around and give a tax credit to all of you so you have more money in your pocket for gas, for groceries, for housing. I'm going to pass a single-payer health care because everyone deserves to have health care. Together, we'll restore the American dream and live out Dr. King's dream. Thank you so much.
That's Tony Thurman. Now we will hear from Betty Yee.
Great. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Happy King Weekend. My name is Betty Yee, 2-term state controller and also a member of the Board of Equalization for about a decade. Look, my whole orientation to what's happening in California is this. We have a global economy that is not delivering economic prosperity for everyone in this state. And that is the work that needs to be done. All of our policies in terms of uplifting our economy has been about shifting burdens to where there are communities that are bearing more than their share. And so as I think about the work of the next governor, 2 things. One, the price of admission to be even standing up here is that we're going to keep fighting back against this Trump administration. And so we know the value of our immigrant communities here in California. We know the value of communities that come together and know how to just uplift each other. But here in California, we have to be honest. We have disinvested in so many of our communities here in California, and we need to get back on track to be sure that we are growing our economy. We're going to have bad budgets for the next handful of years. We're not going to be able to cut our way out of it or tax our way out of it, but we should be investing and growing our economy, and that begins right here in South Los Angeles and other parts of California. So I am here to say that with my fiscal and financial experience, it is time to make California add up for everyone again. Thank you so much.
The next speaker for opening statements is former Mayor of L.A., Antonio Villaraigosa.
Mine eyes have seen the glory. You know, coming here, I've been coming here for 34 years, by the way. I've been here from the very beginning with the Empowerment Congress, and wherever Mark is, Mark, thank you. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for working together. And what's beautiful about this Congress, look at this room. Take a look. We look like LA. We look like America. And I'm running for governor because I know that too many people have been left behind. I grew up in a home of domestic violence and alcoholism. My mother struggled to make ends meet, struggled to put food on our table. And I'll tell you something, I was blessed because there was a Civil Rights Act and a Voting Rights Act that gave me a shot. Gave me a shot to break a glass ceiling, not once, not twice, but multiple times. I say God is good. But I also say this. The role of the first is not to bang on your chest and say how great I am. The role of the first is to open up the door for the rest, and the Empowerment Congress has been doing that for a long time. So I intend to work with you. We all are going to say some of the same things. Most of us are Democrats and agree on a whole lot. But I'll tell you something. Tell me who you walk with, and I'll tell you who you are. I've walked with many of you for decades. I know many of you for a very long time. I've struggled alongside of you and will continue to do so as your governor.
That's Antonio Villaraigosa. Now we will hear from Tom Steyer.
Good morning. It is a great honor to be here, and I do want to call out that Mark Ridley Thomas came out here as the representative of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, that it's a direct line to Dr. King, and let's hope everybody on this stage and everybody in the audience can try and live up to that vision of equality and justice that Dr. King presented. I am from a family that believes in service. My mom was a teacher. My dad was a Navy vet. I went to school here. I started a business here, and I started a family here with my wife, who's in the front row, Cattell. And I walked away from the business 14 years ago to give back to this state that had done so much for me. Full-time. We did a lot of things together, but the biggest thing that I'm proudest of is taking on the special interests on behalf of working families and winning over and over again. We took on the oil companies and beat them at the ballot box. We took on the tobacco companies and beat them at the ballot box. We took on multinationals who were gaming our state income tax and beat them at the ballot box because nobody else was willing to take them on. I don't owe anybody anything. As your governor, I want to continue to fight it for working people and to take down the special interests who are gaming the system at the expense of our education and health. So the last thing I want to say is billionaires have to pay their fair share. Thank you again for this weekend. This is so important for all of us to remember our deepest values together.
That's Tom Steyer. We will now hear from Ian Calderon.
Good morning, everybody. How we feeling? My name is Ian Calderon. I'm the former Majority Leader of the California State Assembly. And I want to thank the Empowerment Congress for having me. And when I try to boil down what it is that you all stand for, it's about having a voice. And I represent a generation that doesn't believe that they have a voice. A generation that believes that they've been forgotten about and that they've become a footnote in the history of California's story where there's no longer a future for us here. Where home ownership, there is no real pathway. We're told we're going to be a renter for the rest of our lives. Where we don't have affordability and the cost of living increases 3-5% every single year, pricing us out of our communities, pricing families out of their homes. And then there was no accountability. No accountability. Every single one of you here are accountable to your responsibilities. You don't pay a bill, you don't take care of a responsibility, you're going to be held accountable. Why should that be any different for the state? Why should there be a different set of rules for all of us playing by the rules and not the state and not government whose responsibility is to not forget about us? I'm running for governor because I'm a dad. I have 4 kids. I don't have as many kids as John. My kids are 8, 6, 5, and 4, and I can't tell you how glad I am to be out of the diaper phase. But when I look at my kids, I ask myself, my wife and I ask ourselves, do our kids have a future in this state? And that isn't a resounding yes. That is a failure. How many of you feel like your families, your kids have a future in this state? That is why I'm running for governor. We need a new generation of leadership to change that dynamic, and I want to thank you all again for having me here today.
That's Ian Calderon. I feel like I should ask each of you, how many kids do you have? But I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. We will now hear from Eric Swalwell.
Can you raise your right hand if our country and California are in trouble? And keep it up and raise your left hand if it's the most trouble you've ever seen in your lifetime. That's why I'm running for governor. And the next governor has 2 jobs. First, to build a firewall in California to keep Trump and his troops out of our streets and out of our lives. We first saw ICE agents chasing families through the fields and the factories where they work. Then they deported a 6-year-old battling stage 4 cancer. And recently they murdered a mother, shooting her 3 times in the face. My message as governor to ICE agents is this. If you harm a single Californian, hire the best lawyer you can afford, because I will bring you to justice. I will use every power in the state to bring you to justice. I will take your driver's license away if you operate in our state with a mask and unidentified. And I introduced into Congress last week a bill to strip them of their immunity because they are not invisible. The second job is to be the CEO of lowering your prices. California is the greatest country in the world. But if we're being honest with each other, California is a blue state held down by red tape. And we're going to build houses like crazy. We're going to lower housing costs, lower health care costs, lower costs everywhere. That's my job. I'm going to be a day one Democrat to do it.
That's Eric Swalwell. I'm laughing at this because by virtue of his last name beginning with a B, Javier Becerra comes out first to take the first podium. But he pulled number 8. Javier Becerra, your opening statement, sir.
Good morning, brothers and sisters. Thank you for having us all. South Los Angeles is a place of a lot of history. We're right now in a center of science and promise. But just a few blocks down, Rodney King was savaged by our law enforcement. This is a place where you have people who work the hardest, earn the least. A place where right next door you have the University of Southern California, and at the same time surrounded by struggling public schools. It's like that promise. It's like that promise. 40 acres and a mule. Still waiting. Still waiting. I'm running for governor because we do not have to wait anymore. We have built this state. It is our turn to be able to flourish in the 4th largest economy in the world instead of have to work the hardest and make the least. And so I run because I want to represent the people, the families of South Los Angeles. I want to represent you because I already do, because you see, my parents, they weren't raised in South Los Angeles. They didn't live in South Los Angeles, but they are the family of South Los Angeles, a construction worker and a clerical worker. 6th grade education for my father. Union man. Immigrants. Somehow, here's the point. They figured out how to raise a family, send 4 kids to college or the military, and own their own home and retire here. We got to do that again. South LA is where it starts. I want to be your governor to make it happen.
That's Javier Becerra. All right. Those are your opening statements from each of our candidates. Those were 90 seconds. Now, each candidate will have, as we move through the rest of this forum, 1 minute to respond to the questions that are going to be posed to them. As I mentioned earlier, the first question will be answered first by Mr. Becerra, and we'll work our way down the line. The second question will be answered in the order that you are here on the stage. The first person to ask a question is, from the LA Times, Gustavo Arellano. Gustavo, all yours, sir.
Thank you. We were told not to use our cell phones unless we're going to be posting on social media. If I open up my social media right now, though, all I'm going to see is videos of ICE agents going through communities, not just here in South LA, not just here in Los Angeles and Minnesota and Chicago, all around the country. How would you, as governor, and not just, by the way, undocumented folks, too. We had Renee Good in Minneapolis. We had Keith Porter Jr. up in Northridge. How will you, as governor of California, protect Californians from ICE?
Can I start?
Yes.
Gustavo, the first thing is, I would do what I did when I was Attorney General for California when Trump was president the first time. I would stop him. He tried to do the same thing when I was Attorney General. We took him to court. He denied us $57 million in community policing grants because we wouldn't do ICE enforcement with them. I stopped him from forcing us to do ICE raids, and I got our $57 million back for the communities of California. That's what you got to do, is be ready to do it. Not just say you can do it, but prove you know how to do it. The second thing is, I would use our law enforcement officers, because our leadership in law enforcement is working with them every day. We can use them to help combat this scourge of violence and illegality done by federal law enforcement.
Thank you.
I'm only pausing because our clock is malfunctioning. That was about a minute, so I'm going to need somebody to grab a phone for me right quick. I need a timekeeper somewhere. Gustavo, can you do this until we get this clock fixed? Thank you. Say it again. Human error. Okay, imagine that. Okay. All right. Don't do it again. Mr. Human. All right. The question is about ICE and how you protect Californians from ICE, Mr. Calderon.
Yeah, Gustavo, thank you so much for your question. I really appreciate it. Quite simply, nobody, even an ICE officer, gets to come into our state and break our laws and not suffer the consequences for breaking our laws. We have the right to craft our laws and prosecute anybody that comes here and breaks an ICE agent or not. So what I would do is I would direct our Attorney General, Rob Bonta, who I served in the legislature with, who's actually my assistant majority leader when we served in the legislature together, and I would direct him to file criminal charges against any ICE agent that comes into our state and breaks our laws. That is the type of leadership that we need, because what we need to know is that when they come into our state, they're not immune to us and our power. And what we're seeing, what's happening across this country, states are not being allowed into the courtroom, so we don't have all the facts. We don't have all the facts, but if we take our power back and hold them accountable to our laws, we're going to get the facts, and we're going to create real consequences and a real deterrent to stop them from victimizing our friends and our families.
John Slavitt, how do you protect us from ICE, sir?
Well, first thing is we need to treat our immigrant population with dignity and respect. Dignity and respect. They're extremely important parts of our communities and our economy. I would take a very different approach. By the way, I'm the lone Republican who accepted this invite. I think we need more voices here. I think it's a shame others did not show up. Thank you. I would take a very different approach. Trump is a deal maker and a transaction guy. I would go to Washington and cut a deal to restore California sovereignty. We should run our own state. There are things we can give and things we can get. Yes, we should work with the feds to deport criminals. We all want that. Sanctuary state status is a moral hazard, and it encourages people to get coyoted and to come and risk their lives. We should end it. In return, we will restore sovereignty for the state of California and return peace to our streets. That's the approach that I would take.
That's John Slavitt. We now move to Tom Steyer on ICE, the ICE question, sir.
So I think we have to acknowledge that the Trump administration is a criminal enterprise. And they have been a criminal enterprise since he got elected in 2016. In 2017 and 18, I full-time went around the country on need to impeach to say, we have to impeach this man. He hates America, he hates Americans, and he breaks the law every day. And he's back. And we all know he's back. Do I agree with the people on this stage who are smart and well-intentioned who say we need to use the law against this man? Absolutely. They're right when Eric says we're going to take away their driver's license, when Javier says we're going to use the law. I absolutely agree. They're good people trying to do the right thing. But this is Martin Luther King weekend. And we remember that there's been another criminal enterprise in this country that the people in this room had to stand up to by being right, by winning in the court of public opinion. And when you look and see what happened in Minnesota, it was the fact that the right was shown to the people of the United States that Trump backed down. Yeah. We have to try to be close to as good and as powerful as Dr. King to really win this.
As my mama might say, don't make me come down off this stage. I asked you kindly and nicely earlier, no screaming, no yelling, no shouting out. We asked for decorum earlier. I'm going to ask one more again for your decorum. Church say amen?
Amen.
All right. Who's next? Who's down there? I can't see. Mr. Swalwell, the ICE question, sir.
Always be on offense. I will always be on offense on behalf of Californians. I know this guy. He only understands one language. It's the language of strength. I've walked through Boyle Heights with my campaign chairman, Jimmy Gomez. I've seen the vacant storefronts and what they are doing to terrorize our community and our economy. They're going to lose their immunity. They're not going to be able to drive. I will take your driver's license. Good luck walking to work, assholes. Also, I will direct law enforcement to use every power to prosecute them for battery, false imprisonment, and murder. You know me. I'm not shy. Over the last 10 years, I worked on the Russia investigation with Adam Schiff. I helped lead the second impeachment as a manager. I've got the only lawsuit that has survived this new presidency. It's me and the January 6 officers. I'm not naive about who he is. There's only one side of the ball to be on behalf of Californians when it comes to ICE, and it's offense.
Mr. Swalwell, I'm going to send that FCC bill to you when they send it to KBLA. for that word. I digress. Don't do it again, please, sir. Please don't do it again. You can take Tony Thurman, the ICE question.
You can take as much time as you want. I'm glad to be on the stage with Tavis Smiley, y'all. Trump is an out-of-control reality TV chump, and I can't wait till 2028 when we can tell him, you're fired. We got to get him out of here. And listen, anybody who murders an unarmed citizen, ICE or not, we will prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law. And that's what we have to do. I've shared with you how already
I've sued this administration on more than a dozen occasions to take back from him what he has stolen. He stole $6 billion from this state for immigrant students, for summer programs, and we sued his you-know-what and got that money back. Again, we passed laws in this state that says ICE has no place in a single school district in this community, and ICE has no place in our hospitals and our emergency rooms. I'm saying that to say I'm not just going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'm reminding you of what we have done, and I will work with Congress as governor to create a pathway to citizenship for all immigrants in our state.
Very quick comment, just so you don't think I'm being punitive or pejorative to Mr. Swalwell. We are live on radio. There are certain words the FCC says we cannot use on radio, and the a-hole word is one of those words. So I just want to let all the candidates know.
Send the bill to the president.
I understand. I understand. All right, Mayor Villaraigosa, the ayes question, sir.
I think it's pretty simple. Look, we've actually enacted some of the laws to stop these agents. They're not working because this man doesn't believe in the rule of law. We need to go to the ballot box, Prop 50. We need to take him out of office, but most importantly, we need to do what we've done before. I came out of the civil rights movement, the Chicano movement. Helped start the Black Student Union at 15, and then the United Mexican American Students, and then led the walkouts. We know what a movement can do to change the hearts and minds of people. We are going to have to engage in a nonviolent movement. We're going to have to grow that movement, feed that movement, nurture that movement with small victories. They'll begin at the ballot box. We got to get rid of the majority in the House right now. We got to start those impeachment hearings you talked about. We got to put the pressure on. And the pressure doesn't come from politicians. The pressure comes from you. That's what the Empowerment Congress is all about.
Thank you, Mayor.
I've lived that life, and I intend to be there all alongside of you.
Mayor Villaraigosa, thank you. Betty Yee, the ayes question.
Thank you. So I think it's really simple. We take it to the streets. This is where we are a sanctuary state. And our law enforcement has no role in terms of cooperating with the federal government. And Gustavo, as much as you're seeing those videos on social media, the videos that I'm most proud of, and how many of us are here in this room, we ought to be blasting social media with the pushback that we see every day in our communities, reclaiming our communities because ICE has no role being in them. And so when we look at what this means, how many of you have been to a Know Your Rights training? More of you need to do that. I mean, we have the power to stop this. That's right. We have the power to say, you don't get to come and arrest innocent people. We don't have the power to be bystanders in any of this. We need to know the rights of what our immigrant neighbors are going through. We need to protect them. We need to have the supports for them. And that's how we grow this movement. That's how every movement has been won. And we don't take it for granted. It will be won and then tested again. So we've got to step up and do the job.
We are off and running. There's your first question. The second question is from Lisa Collins of LA Focus, and Mr. Calderon will be the first to respond. Lisa.
All right. Good morning. Dr. King was a pastor, and at the forefront of the movement he led were faith leaders and churches. Beyond moments of crisis and election cycles, how have you engaged faith leaders as ongoing civic partners, and what role would they play shaping policy in your administration?
Mr. Calderon.
Thank you, Lisa, for your question. You know, the problem that we have right now in the state is that there's too much of a concentration of power that's at the top. And there isn't enough collaboration. As I travel throughout the state, I can see it. I can see it in the small communities in the Central Valley that I visit. They don't feel like they have a voice. Communities across the state don't believe that they have a voice. And what they don't believe is that they have a seat at the governor's table to be able to voice their concerns and have that voice. The next governor's success is going to be predicated upon having communities have a voice in state government, having a voice with the governor, being able to work with faith leaders and community leaders to help us understand what we don't know.
because there's so many pieces of legislation and issues that come to the governor's desk every single year. And how can you possibly make the best decision if you're not including all the relevant, important stakeholders that know what's happening on the ground at that table? So faith leaders and community leaders, Empowerment Congress are always going to have a seat at my table, because that's what's going to make me a better leader.
If you've just tuned in, you're listening to KBLA Talk 1580 to a live broadcast.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
34th Annual Empowerment Congress Summit. We are featuring for the next hour or so a conversation with 8 of the candidates for governor here in the state of California. The question just posed was about how these candidates have worked in the past with faith leaders, what they'll do if they are elected governor. The next person to respond is John Slavitt.
I think we need to start talking again. Thank you, Lisa, for the question. I think we're so divided within families and in politics that we've stopped actually listening to each other. That's why I'm here representing myself, because I wanted to be on the stage with this community, with my fellow leaders in the state and Democrats. We need to start talking again. I think that Jews and Christians need to talk to each other. I think that Muslims and Hindus need to be gathered and talk to each other. So we need to actually get together. I have a major inspiration in my life, an advisor to my campaign named Dr. James McCleary, who's a leader in criminal justice reform. And he is my idol in terms of community building. He travels the country bringing shot callers, chiefs of police, and district attorneys together in circle to work out their problems and quiet communities. And I think that we need to get together in this state. We need to get to know each other again. And when I'm governor, I'll be just as likely to go to sleep in Los Angeles as Tulare, as San Francisco, as my hometown. We need to talk again.
Tom Steyer.
So I was talking to Lisa before this program began, and she was noticing that I write crosses on my hand before I go out in public. And the reason I do that is I know that I have to try to live up to a certain value system and try as hard as I can. And when you talk about faith, this is something which is largely missing from our society, largely missing from our conversation, so I really appreciate the question. Let me say, Catherine Taylor and I have supported something called Good Samaritan in our hometown of San Francisco for 40 years. It's immigrant services, it's emergency food, it's daycare, it's elder care, it's homelessness care. Because we know the Good Samaritan, the care for the most needy, is the way that we raise up the whole society. And it really comes at some level from values and faith, Lisa.
That's Tom Steyer. Mr. Swalwell.
Romans chapter 8 says, if God is for us, who can be against us? And God is for the weary traveler and helping that traveler, not looking away or deporting that traveler or leaving that person hungry or unhoused. That's what we learn in my church, Cornerstone, up in Livermore. But also look at my acts of faith. I asked Bishop Macklin from Glad Tidings Church in my congressional district in Hayward to open up the prayer in the House of Representatives. And just recently, I brought my colleague and one of the supporters of my campaign, Jasmine Crockett, to fame here in Los Angeles. So I'll continue to engage with the faith community because I know God is not for the wickedness and the cruelty that we're seeing directed at those who are most vulnerable among us in the community. And that's the kind of governor that I'll be always on the side of humanity and compassion.
That's Eric Swalwell. Now we'll hear from Tony Thurmond.
Thank you, Lisa, for the question. The title of my sermon today, beloved, will be... Oh, wrong place. Pass the plate. No, listen. Think about it. The church is where we learn how to organize. We are taught in the Word that it is not just enough to talk about the Word in the house of God, but to be in the community, delivering the Word. We have to deliver the clergy to every place, including the White House, to say that what you are delivering is wrong and hurts the people. That's right. It was in the places of faith that we got Prop 50 passed. Right. How many of y'all was in the church talking about Prop 50? That's what we need to do, is to continue to organize. We need to build on the legislation that says we can build housing that churches and houses of faith own so that everyone has a place to live, and work together as brothers and sisters, as Dr. King commanded and called on us to do, to end hate. Let's do it together, as Dr. King asked us to do.
That's Tony Thurman. You're now about to hear from Antonio Villaraigosa.
Thank you, Lisa, for that question. I'm proud to have the endorsement of more than 25 pastors in this town and bishops, not because I just ran for office and gave a great speech or an interview, but because I've been here. I've been working with them. Many of you know who have gone to church with me, I don't do drive-by fellowship. Like you and I were together one day, and I said that. I stayed for the whole service. And more importantly, I've worked with every church, particularly First AME and West Angeles, to do economic development and housing. My administration was focused on building communities, using the church and their properties and the people that they have there to build jobs and housing during the time I was mayor. So I got a record, and I'm proud to work with them going forward.
Betty Yee.
Thank you, Lisa. First, let me just say my connection with the faith community is personal. My husband is a rabbi. And let me just say this about the faith community. Oftentimes, when communities are in distress, it is the faith communities that come together first on the ground before government acts. This happened after the Rodney King unrest. My husband's synagogue, many of the churches in this area came to South Los Angeles. It happened after 9/11 when we came together because we needed to make sure that our Muslim Americans were not going to be just victims of just hate, automatic hate. But I want to say this about the faith community. There's a lot of excuses about why we don't get involved with them. Separation of church and state, and just a lot of just different values that people really don't understand. We need the faith community. You all know how to organize. We rely on you in terms of our policies. We are going to get affordable housing built in communities of need, and we are going to have a strong relationship with the faith community when I'm governor.
We all know and respect Frank Stoltz for his work with KPCC and the LAist. His question, I'm sorry, did I leave you out of this? That was a good one. Javier Becerra, my mistake. Human error.
Human error.
Javier, go ahead.
Who knew?
I won't do it again. Hey. I'm going to kick you out of here in a minute. You do that again. I'm just messing. Go ahead, Javier. I'm sorry.
Tavis, you used up 10 seconds of my time.
You can have it back. Take it, Javier. Go for it.
Here we go. Sword and shield. That's what the church is. Sword and shield. When we tried to pass comprehensive immigration reform in Congress, where do we go first? Our religious community. When I had to reach out to communities after an officer-involved shooting when I was Attorney General, where did I go first? Our clergy. When I was Secretary and we were seeing a drop in COVID vaccination in the black and brown community, where did I go first? The church. Where was I for Thanksgiving? Helping people have a decent dinner? Church. We can't do things without the sword and the shield. We must incorporate our religious community. We must do it in ways that make them feel alive. And we must make it clear that we cannot survive as a people without the church, without our clergy. And that's what we will do when I'm governor.
That's Javier Becerra. My mistake. Now, Frank Stoltz, I was saying we know from KPCC and the LAist. His question now will be answered first by Mr. Slavitt. Frank.
Recent state budget decisions have reduced Medi-Cal support for the health care safety net, impacting coverage for many black, brown, low-income, working, immigrant Californians, and significantly reducing reimbursement for nonprofit community clinics that serve those communities. As governor, will you commit to restoring Medi-Cal coverage for every income-eligible Californian, regardless of immigration status, and reversing clinic rate reductions, including cuts that reduce some clinic payments by as much as 80%? If yes, what is your funding plan and timeline?
Okay, thank you for the question, Frank. Well, first of all, healthcare is a huge crisis. There are families all across the state that are worried that the next medical bill is going to bankrupt them, and that is no way to go to bed at night. As governor, the first thing I would do is restructure the budget so we can actually fund healthcare appropriately in California. It's a huge priority. So, Frank, the answer directly to your question is yes. For citizens, we need to fully fund healthcare. For the undocumented, emergency services are legally available and ethically available, but Even Governor Newsom reversed course and said that everyone has to pay into the system. We can't give it away for free. We don't have the budget. I would do a number of things also on health care. If you walk into a department store to buy clothes and there are no prices on the clothes and they tell you, no, you got to buy them and we'll tell you what it costs later, you wouldn't buy in that store. We should have complete transparency by the law of every healthcare service so you can shop. And if an MRI is $200 in one place and $2,000 in another place, you're going to go for the lowest cost service. And drug prices, I agree with Trump. Let's bash the drug companies over the head and lower the prices for your prescriptions.
That's John Slavitt. Now Tom Steyer.
Frank, we are a revenue-challenged state. In spite of the fact that we're the richest state, we have the highest percentage of people in poverty. We absolutely need more revenues in order to be able to say yes to your question. I have said I've taken on the special interest in the past, and I will take them on again to deliver billions of dollars to Californians without their paying a penny for it. How am I going to do it? I'm going to close the real estate loophole for corporations. That's $10 to $15 billion a year. I'm going to close the so-called water's edge loophole. That's $4 billion a year. That's $15 to $20 billion a year so that we can say yes, that healthcare is a right and everyone will get it. And we're going to do that. I've done it in the past. I've never lost. We'll do it again. Long term, we have to move to special payer, to single payer. We don't have a choice. But in the interim, we can't do single payer that fast. We have to have more revenue. I guarantee I will bring 15 to 20 extra $1 billion for education and healthcare for Californians.
That is Tom Steyer. This is Eric Swalwell.
Healthcare will be a California right for every Californian. I have voted 70 times against every Republican effort to take away healthcare. I voted last week to put back in place the Affordable Care Act subsidies. I will also be revenue-minded. We're going to have an explosion of new small businesses for a permanent tax base for healthcare in this state. I'm going to stand up a California research fund that invests in California companies. The returns will go to lower healthcare costs. And we're going to have corporations that have the longest distance between CEO pay and the rank and file pay the most in this state. And you know what? I'm going to sell license plates so you can have your favorite sports team on your license plate or your alma mater on your license plate. I will do whatever it takes to fund the healthcare needs of Californians. And I will do this beyond my grave because I don't care if you are a Democrat, a Republican, a libertarian, a vegetarian. I will reach up from the soil and I will stop you if you try and take away someone's health care.
That's Eric Swalwell. This is Tony Thurmond.
Frank, you asked a direct question. Let me give you a direct answer. As governor, I will restore health care for all, including for undocumented folks in California. I was on the legislature that helped to create health care for all, and I will help to restore it. Now, I'll be really clear. In order to do any of these things, we do need more money. And we're not going to tax anybody else in this room, well, maybe some folks on the stage, but we're going to tax billionaires to have additional revenue to provide for health care. And as governor, I will oversee a single-payer health care system because health care is a right, and no one should go without health care. I know this. My brother was 35 years old. He had a liver disorder, didn't smoke, didn't drink, lost his job, lost his insurance, and that took his life. No one should lose their life because they don't have insurance. We will not allow that to happen under my administration. We will work with Congress to reverse the effects of the big, ugly bill, get everybody back on Medicare, and make sure that everyone has health care for all in the great state of California.
That was smooth, Tony Thurmond. You referenced him, but you didn't call him by name, so he can't respond. So I'll move on. Antonio Villaraigosa.
Oh, yeah. That's funny.
Well, first of all, I had a congenital tumor. I was paralyzed from the waist down at 15 years old. My mother struggled every day to make ends meet and worried whether she'd be able to pay for that health care. That's why when I got to the legislature, the first thing I did is said, increase Medi-Cal to 200% above poverty for children. Then I became the author of Healthy Families. Millions of people had health care as a result of that effort. We worked on that together back then. I did, when I was mayor, no jurisdiction over health care. I did LARX, reducing drug prescriptions 40%. I believe health care is a right, and I believe everyone ought to have it. As far as the undocumented, absolutely. Because we already pay for it. It's called an emergency care, and it costs more to pay for emergency care than to provide care every single day to the undocumented. I intend to make universal health care a priority in my administration. I got a record on it.
That's Antonio Villaraigosa. This is Betty Yee.
Thank you. Yes, healthcare is a right here in California, and we are going to be sure that everyone has coverage and has access, even more importantly. So we are going to need more revenue. As I said earlier, we're not going to be able to tax our way out of this budget nor cut our way out of the budget. But the one thing we never talk about is how do we invest in the systems that we need to serve our people. We need to grow our healthcare workforce in California, grow the economy so that we don't have healthcare deserts in California. The idea that people have to drive 4 hours to go deliver a baby here in California is just unconscionable. So what we need to do is look at the system as well. How do we squeeze the efficiencies out of the system? You know what? We haven't audited Medi-Cal for decades because we don't have the authority to do that, an independent audit. And you know what happens with fraud there? It's not the people wanting health care that are fraudulent. It's the people who want to provide it that produce false claims that get paid. So hundreds of millions, I think, in fraud. We need to make the system more efficient so that everyone can have health care, including our immigrant population, regardless of legal status.
That's Betty Yee. Watch this, Javier Becerra.
I said it at the beginning.
Thank you.
Hardest working, lowest paid. I could have added, and most uninsured. We're going to fight that because it is time for everyone who works hard to have the dignity to go in to see their doctor, use the hospital, and because we understand that if they don't go to that community health center, they're going to end up in that hospital, and that emergency room is going to cost us more. That's why when I was Secretary of Health and Human Services, we grew the number of people who had health insurance coverage to a record levels, more than 300 million. Why? Because we used Obamacare, and we got people insured. When I was AG, when Donald Trump went after the Affordable Care Act, I sued him all the way to the Supreme Court, and we still have it, so that tells you we won. I'm going to make sure that everyone has access to care because that's the only way we do it in the fourth largest economy in the world, where we spend more on healthcare than any other state. Our nation spends more money on healthcare than any other country in the world. We can do it, and we don't have to make the hardest working, lowest paid pay for that.
That's Javier Becerra. This is Ian Calderon.
You know, I think the problem is that politicians have forgotten what it's like to wake up in the middle of the night with your kid crying and 103-degree fever and can't breathe. And what it's like to not have health care, to be able to comfortably go to the doctor or to go to the hospital. In some areas of the state, they live an hour away from the nearest hospital. More revenue means nothing if it's continuing to fund a broken system. We don't even know what the cost of care is. We don't. So we need to reform that system, and we need to guarantee universal basic health care for all families across this state. And that's a commitment that I will make now. We can fund it because we already pay over $400 billion collectively into health care. So if we can understand what the actual true cost of care is, pool our resources, we can provide that universal basic coverage so that you can have preventative care, primary care, mental health care, maternal care, and catastrophic care so that you're not saddled with debt for the rest of your life. We cannot continue to operate within a system that's already broken. You have to reform it and change it.
Thank you, Ian Calderon. The next question comes from the LA Times. Gustavo Arellano, the first candidate to respond will be Tom Steyer. Mr. Arellano.
California was declared drought-free for the first time in 25 years. We know we're going to get in drought soon again. That's what California is. So what will your water policy be as governor?
So west of the Mississippi is one big desert. And the value of a farm without water is nothing. We have to use the technology of the world to use the water much more carefully, which is called exact farming. We have to collect the water very differently, as people do in Los Angeles. We have to collect it as it rains. We need to store it, and we need to reuse it. Just so you know, people talk a lot about climate and climate change and droughts. We will have every bit as much precipitation in this planet as we've ever had. It will come in different forms. It will come less regularly. And therefore, we are going to have to use the technology that we have to make sure that we monitor it, we care for it, we collect it, and reuse it. And let me say this. Los Angeles has been at the forefront of every part of this, Los Angelinos have known the value of water and the need to be careful in its collection and use.
Water policy, Eric Swalwell.
I was in Fresno a couple weeks ago. We had a town hall of a couple hundred people, and this was top of mind. Water. May surprise you to know, though, that I represent an agriculture district. I have about 70 wineries and cattlemen in my district. And California wine industry is shrinking right now, and this is a core driver of our economy because of water. So I see this from our winemakers, from our ag producers across the state. I'm going to be a governor that invests in the next generation of water technologies. I've represented Lawrence Livermore National Laboratories and Sandia National Laboratories, and they're doing a lot of work. We need to fund the best of California to do more. That's why I'm standing up a California Research Fund. We can't count on the federal government anymore. I'm going to send the best and the brightest of the public sector around the world to seek investments in California, and the return on investments is going to go to lower our energy costs, lower our healthcare costs, and lower our water costs.
Tony Thurmond, what would your water policy be, sir?
It is said that in the fourth largest economy in the world, we allow anybody in this state to go without water to drink or to bathe. That is going to change. That is my water policy. We will not allow that. We will capture more storm water runoff. We will build the infrastructure to allow us to capture the storm water runoff. The scientists even say that we can take recycled water and make drinking water out of it. Now, I'm not volunteering to be first for that, but I do believe that we can use technology to even convert seawater that can be used for drinking water. And so let us harness the strength of California's technology and innovation to provide water to all, for farmers, for industry, for those who work in agriculture who can't even bathe after they've been exposed to chemicals. We have to change our policy and shift our policy, and we will have water for all in the great state of California.
Water policy, Antonio Villaraigosa.
You know, I've been to Larry County, to Riverside County, to many counties in this state, and see those people that you talked about. People don't have water. They cart in bottled water to take a shower in. There are whole blocks in Tulare County closed down because they don't have clean drinking water. Tom said it. Ellie's been doing it for a long time. We understand, and yes, you can recycle. Well, you said that. We recycle all the time. Orange County recycles, LA recycles. We got to recycle more. That's just a fact. We've got to recharge. We've got to address the fact that we have underground aquifers and we're not investing in that underground storage. And we can't be ideologues. John, you're right. At the same time, when I was speaker, I agreed to 2 dams. And they've been blocking and tackling those dams ever since. We need an all-of-the-above strategy on water. I understand that. I was mayor and speaker before that and worked on those issues.
This is Betty Yee on water policy.
Well, let's, I think, be honest, and that is our water supplies are constrained, and they're limited. And Gustavo, since you asked the question, I want to take this issue head on the Delta Conveyance Project. And that is not creating any new source of water, and it's going to be a long, expensive project that, frankly, keeps our attention away from things that we can do. And I believe that we can be the water technology capital of the world. Any place that is feeling any kind of stress with respect to water is going to be where the innovation happens. Right here in Los Angeles, desal, Tony, you said exactly right. It's being actually developed by the Los Virgenes Water District. How we get water from our ocean and still protect ocean life. And we should be looking at technology where every home should have a gray water system already, where we can convert water to be potable water. That's the promise of California. That's what we're innovative about. And that's how we're going to grow our economy, to be sure that people are in this space so that we can actually be the water technology capital.
That's Betty Yee. This is Javier Becerra.
Before my father became a construction worker, he was a farm worker. He knew the value of water. Without water, he didn't have a job. Without water, he couldn't feed his family. We have to have a policy where we understand what the cost of water is. You don't know what your cost of water is, except that when you look at your bill, but is that a fair share? We have to make sure everyone pays their fair share, and I guarantee you there are users who are not paying their fair share. We must respect what it means to pay your fair share. So we talk to the ag community, we talk to the housing developers, we're going to talk to each and everyone who's a resident. And we're going to make sure everyone understands how precious our water is, because we need efficiency. We cannot have waste. We know how to recycle. We know how to capture. We know how to put it back into aquifers. It's going to cost money, but if everyone's paying their fair share, we will get it done. And you will have clean water that you can always drink, and you will not have to worry because you will have paid your fair share.
This is Ian Calderon on water policy.
Did you all know that right now you have a guaranteed right under state law to clean drinking water? Right now, in law. You have families that are being pushed into poverty, that are being pushed into homelessness because they cannot afford the utilities and they cannot afford their utility bills. Where's the justice in that? You can pass all the laws under the sun that you want, but if you don't enforce them and you don't hold agencies in the state accountable, you're never going to see a difference. In 2014, I was in the legislature when we passed the proposition to create a bond for $7.5 billion to build water infrastructure, capture and storage. Over a decade ago, how many shovels do you think are in the ground building projects right now? Zero. Zero. How can that be when you have such a need? The state is not being managed correctly. There is no accountability. So you have to make sure that you are not just passing laws, but following through. And then you get the results and guarantee your right to clean drinking water.
The last candidate on water policy is John Slavitt.
So when you run a big company, you got to have a plan, right? When you coach a sports team, you got to have a plan. As an individual, you got to have a plan in life. But the state of California has no long-term strategic plan for water. There's some legislation passed recently that just began to put a commission together to look at a long-term strategic plan for water. That's the first thing we need to do. The second thing is, building what Ian said, there are 1 million Californians, mostly poor, without safe drinking water. We should solve that immediately. That's a human rights issue. We also need to invest in infrastructure as a part of that long-term strategic plan because we are growing. We want to grow again as a state, right? Our state is 5% developed with housing. If we want to add 10 million more homes over the next 10 years, that's 1% more of our land, but that's a lot of water and infrastructure we need to build. We need to invest. One last comment. We've been lied to on energy policy. The state has had a scarcity policy. I'll talk more about this in a minute, that is driving your costs up like crazy, that I will fix with better policy.
This is Lisa Collins of LA Focus with her question that will go first to Congressman Eric Swalwell.
All right. I'm going to follow up Gustavo's question about water with one about fire. There's been significant concern about the state's response following the Eaton fire. In your view, did state leadership meet the moment? And if not, what specific decisions or actions would you have taken differently?
This is Eric Swalwell.
No, and it can't happen again. Period. As governor, I'm going to focus on fire risk mitigation. We have the most forest land in the country, and I'm going to work with next generation milling to reduce the risk of forest fire in California in those areas. I see it as a forfer. We can reduce forest fire risk. By reducing forest fire risk, you lower the cost of homeowners insurance, which we're all seeing go up and up every single day. We can create a new jobs industry in a state that has the highest unemployment in the country. And I will use my emergency powers through the permitting process to make sure there's a set-aside for any soft lumber that's used to bring down construction costs so we can build like crazy and meet our housing need. I see it, as I said, as a forfer. We need to start building again, but we need to reduce and get more inventive in how we take on this challenge.
Tony Thurman.
You know, you can't control getting high-pressure winds. Wildfire and disaster are part of our new normal in California, but here's where California didn't get it right. The homeowners insurance industry did not cover folks in California in their greatest time of need, and then they got a raise. They got a rate increase. Where I come from, when you do a bad job, you don't get a raise, you get fired. As governor, I will hold the homeowners insurance industry responsible to Californians. If you want a rate increase, write some policies for the people of California. They've collected your money for decades. For decades. And then in our time of need, they said, nope, sorry, too much risk. Don't listen to the actuaries, listen to the people and take care of the people. As governor, we will harden our homes. We will have more controlled burns so that we're prepared. And we will hold the homeowners insurance industry accountable to you to ensure and protect you.
This is Antonio Villaraigosa.
It can't ever happen again. The fact of the matter is, we made mistakes. There's no question about it. Safety, safety, safety. That's job number one for if you want to be mayor, governor, or president of the United States. And fire prevention is part of that. We've got to invest a lot more in our firefighters in CAL FIRE. We've got to do a lot more to clear the forest and places where there's shrubbery next to homes. We're going to have to harden our assets. There's no question about it. We're going to be, a lot of people that live up there close to those places are going to have sprinklers on their homes. They're going to have screens to protect against embers coming into their homes. They're going to have to do a lot of things. But the most important thing that we can do is understand it won't happen just like this, but this is the new day. Every fire gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and the next governor is going to have to make it an absolute priority.
If you've just tuned in, you're listening to KBLA Talk 1580. This is a special broadcast from the California Science Center. We are gathered in the local conference room with a stage full of candidates, 8 to be exact, who are running for governor here in California. And we are now about to hear from Betty Yee on a question about fire policy in the state of California. Betty Yee.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Lisa, for the question. You know, to me, it's a multi-layered question. One is, what do we do in terms of just really arming ourselves in terms of being better prepared? And I think we've lost our way in terms of just really investing in a culture of preparedness. This is the new normal. We're going to have more fires because we're frankly building, most of the state is in wildfire-prone areas. And so as we look at preparedness, I'm thinking about everything from emergency response all the way up to what we do in terms of just what homeowners can do in terms of hardening their homes. But a couple things. Under emergency declaration, there are a lot of things that the state can do. And I wish that we could be better partners with our local governments to where the permitting process, that is where the bottleneck is. We've got to get that cleared up with technology, with whatever tools they need to get rebuilding moving again. And we need to rebuild smarter. With more fire retardant materials, we need to have homeowners take responsibility with respect to defensive perimeter, and we take the responsibility for hardening existing structures right next to them.
It's the 34th Annual Empowerment Congress Summit. This is Javier Becerra.
There should be no one from Altadena or from the Palisades who has not already received their payment from their insurance company. They paid their premiums. They should have had it a long time ago. There is no one from Altadena or Palisades who should feel they have no choice but to sell their damaged property to the lowest bidder who's corporate owned in Wall Street. We will move, and here's what I guarantee you. In my first 100 days, I will freeze insurance premiums. I will not let those insurance companies hike your rates, and we will solve this. I will make sure that we are not letting gougers buy your properties at discounted prices. I will make sure that we make it so that you as a homeowner waiting to have the money to rebuild do not feel like you have to sell to somebody else. We will provide you with the support you need to keep your home. That's the least we can do. We will fight against this gouging that is occurring because you paid your premiums. You deserve to get your money. And that's the least the state of California can do is have your back.
Ian Calderon.
Our emergency systems failed our families. And why is it that of all the places, Western Altadena, a predominantly black neighborhood, didn't receive their emergency warning until hours later and after everybody else did? You mean to tell me that even our emergency systems have built-in racial bias? Go figure, of all the communities, that's the one that didn't get the warning. And I want to do a shout out to Assemblymember John Harabedian, who just this week, through the Joint Legislative Audit Committee, got approved an independent audit to actually figure out what happened. And you better believe that is the very first step in trying to prevent these tragedies from happening again. And we're going to learn from that state audit, and we're going to actually implement policy and follow through so that that never happens again. And it isn't just wildfires. How many of you think we're actually prepared for the next big earthquake that we are decades behind on? There's a lot of work that needs to be done, and it starts with accountability.
That's Ian Calderon. This is John Slavitt.
Yeah, this is about leadership. This is about leadership and preparedness. If you remember back to 1994, Northridge, the 10 freeway collapsed. LA was on its heels, and Pete Wilson, to his credit, marshaled all of the resources of the state, rebuilt that 10 very quickly, and supported LA in its recovery. And it's because of the leadership of the governor. That's the kind of leadership that we need to support the people of West Altadena and the Palisades. That's number one. I don't see that right now. Number two, fire preparedness. I consider myself very pro-environment, but we have let environmental laws prevent us from being fully prepared for the next fires. All of those borderlands that border these highly populated areas, they need to be managed and cleared. CAL FIRE needs to be fully funded, billions more. When these communities burned, the amount of toxicity that went in the air canceled out all the environmental gains for at least a decade. That is a cruel irony.
Tom Steyer.
So this fire didn't just happen. This fire happened for a reason, and the reason was SoCal Edison did not take care of their infrastructure. That fire was sparked by something that hadn't been used for 50 years, that had not been taken care of, that had not been inspected. I've been trying to break up the electric monopolies in this state because they charge us twice as much as the rest of the country. They're very vulnerable, and they do a terrible job in terms of upkeeping the infrastructure. That fire didn't just happen. We have to stop this. Second of all, I agree with all the people on this stage who say we should harden the houses going forward. Absolutely, we should. But in terms of the response, we did not get the stop the world moment the people in Altadena deserved. It stopped the world. Everything else goes, and we come to help them. Of course, the insurance companies, we have to go after them. Of course, we have to go after FEMA. Of course, we have to go after SoCal Edison. If the governor doesn't take it as a critical thing to do to represent those people, it won't happen. It didn't happen.
And this clock is running. As we say in the black church, the next voice you hear will be that of Frank Stokes from the ALA with a question that will go first to Tony Thurmond. Frank.
Let's talk about homelessness. Governor Newsom has spent more than $20 billion trying to alleviate homelessness. He's increased funding for mental health and substance abuse programs, as well as bumped up dollars for housing. He's also directed the CHP to do street sweeps of unhoused people who've set up camps at underpasses and elsewhere. What one new idea or area of emphasis would you bring to the homelessness crisis?
Tony Thurmond.
Right off the top, right now we have 10,000 minors who are homeless. They are unaccompanied on our streets, all alone, that we know of. They will become homeless adults unless we serve them immediately. And so I have legislation right now that would provide subsidized housing with supports for them. You mentioned mental health and substance abuse. We cannot provide housing for the homeless without built-in mental health and substance abuse supports. Otherwise, you just gave away that unit of housing. 40% of those who are homeless in our state, they are older Californians. We failed our elderly. Right now, I'm working on legislation that, if passed, would provide $10 billion to build affordable housing. Let's take care of our elders. Let's take care of our children. And then we're going to build 2 million more units of housing, because part of the issue is the lack of supply. We all know someone who's working and is homeless. That makes no sense. And we're going to hold those big companies that don't pay their workers enough, where they have to go and use public assistance. We're going to hold them accountable by charging them big fees as well. We're going to build housing for the homeless in our state.
Antonio Villaraigosa.
Frank, you said it. We spent $24 billion from the state, and that doesn't include the billions we've spent in the counties and the cities. They did an audit, everybody. Homelessness went up. You can't just throw money at the problem and say you're curing homeless. The fact is, we got to look at what works. What works is preventing people from going homeless in the first place. Those programs work. We need to do more of that. We can't spend $850,000 per unit, which is what the average is for permanent supportive housing in this state. That's not sustainable, everybody. And anybody who's ever had to write the check on the front understands that. Tiny homes go for about $100,000 to $130,000. So that's one of the new things that we got to do. We got to do a lot more of them. We got to connect services to those homes, but we can't. It's not sustainable to do what we're doing now, and we can't just throw money at the problem. It's a fact.
Homelessness, Betty Yee.
We've got to prevent it from happening in the first place. And how we do that? Let's understand who is at risk of becoming homeless. I dare say that it would be much more cost-effective to help someone with first and last month rent and a security deposit than it is to have them become unhoused. To be able to pay their utility bills so they don't get their electricity shut off and have to leave. These are the real lived experiences of people who are having housing insecurity right now. And I'm a big believer in proximate leadership. What should inform our policies is what people are actually experiencing and what can actually help uplift them through homelessness. But it requires accountability. That's right. It requires that we have leadership that's willing to say, this works, this doesn't, let's pull back, let's see where we need to invest more. But prevention, coordination, accountability, and housing supply.
That's Betty Yee. This is Javier Becerra.
I've been saying for years, when I was Attorney General, law enforcement would say, we shouldn't be the ones that are answering this 911 call. It should be a mental health expert. It should be someone who is a social worker to help these folks. Yeah. What we need to do is make sure that the state of California invests its money to keep you in your home, because it costs so much more money to get you off the streets than keep you housed. And so we will expand the programs that help those folks who are working really hard, but are one paycheck away from losing their house, their rent. And so we will first do that. The second thing we'll do is we'll hold local governments accountable to do what they're supposed to do with the billions that they get. And here's what I've done. As Secretary of Health and Human Services, I made sure that we used health care dollars, not just for health care, but to pay for transportation, to help pay for housing. How? Because I said that if a Medi-Cal dollar could be used to keep you healthier by making sure you made your appointment, then we will pay for your ride. If a healthcare dollar out of Medi-Cal can help you stay healthier because you will have a place where you live, then we will help pay for your housing. That's innovation. That's what we can do.
That's Javier Becerra. This is Ian Calderon.
We don't lack money or heart. We lack coordination and accountability. The problem is fragmentation, not compassion. We spend billions of dollars, and have spent billions of dollars over the last decade, and we don't even know that that money is gone. Actually, now we're starting to find out that that money hasn't actually gone to real results. We have to have audits. We have to have forensic audits so that we understand where all this money has gone. We all live in LA County. You remember when Triple H passed, significantly increasing our sales tax? Well, we got more money. Did that solve the problem? No, it didn't solve the problem. In fact, it created a bigger problem. And we're not seeing the results when we're making the investments. So going forward, we need prevention. We need permanent supportive housing plus prevention. We need faster housing delivery by cutting red tape, not eliminating protections. And we need mental health and substance use treatment co-located with housing. And we need statewide standards with local flexibility. It's not an easy one shot. It's going to fix everything. We have to be determined, and accountability is what it starts with.
Thank you, Mr. Calderon. John Slavitt.
I've said this a few times, and I'll say it again. I disagree a bit with many on the stage. We don't have a money problem. We have a leadership problem. Okay? We have a leadership problem. Did you know that there is no statute, there's no law in California that governs the way that the state, counties, and cities coordinate with each other to address the homeless issue? Land use issues, services issues, roles and responsibilities. How about some leadership from the governor's office? By the way, do you know there are 381 people who work in the governor's office? I'm not talking the agencies. There are plenty of people there to get this organized. Number two, I agree with the point that Antonio made. We can't rely on permanent affordable housing that takes 10 years and $1 million a unit to build. That's crazy. Prioritize temporary supportive housing in the communities to get people off the street, because once someone's been on the street, within 30 days, 35% mental illness rate, because they have to get on meth or some kind of drug to stay alive.
We can do this much more cost effectively. It's a leadership issue. It's not a money issue.
Tom Steyer.
So we asked for one idea. I'll give you one idea. Speed. Because it is true that only about 1 out of the 7 people who end up on the street are there for some mental health issue, whether it's bipolarism or substance abuse. Most people end up there because they can't afford a house. That's why they're on the street. But after they've been on the street, it's such a stressful experience. It's so hard to go through that they end up with mental health issues, as would all of us if we were on the street. So my idea is speed. I agree with everybody on this stage who said, let's keep people off the street to begin with. Let's spend the money to keep people off the street. And if they do end up on the street, speed. Let's get them off the street as fast as possible. What does that look like? It's the opposite of what we do now. As Antonio said, the program now is 7 years and $850,000 a key. Not working. I really do believe we need emergency interim housing to get people off the street in a place that they want to go.
Tom Steyer, we thank you. Eric Swalwell.
This issue is personal to me, and I bet for many people it's personal to you. I have a family member who was homeless for many years, and I often would find myself in the Tenderloin in San Francisco, and one time even came upon him waist deep in a garbage can looking for food to feed himself. And what was frustrating to me, and it's frustrating to anyone in this environment and anyone in this situation, is too often you find that the rights equation is balanced against the loved ones, the family members, the friends, and in favor of the person who has the least ability to make decisions and take care of themselves. I want to work with the legislature to change that. I've seen that and I've heard that from too many families in California. But I don't want to create a new government program where a private-public partnership already exists, or where the faith community is already doing it, or the LA Dream Center, for example, could use more resources. So I want to surge and with as much speed and efficiency as possible, lift up what's already happening out there rather than create new programs.
It ain't often that a black man can flex, but since I'm the moderator and it's my station, we're going to go one more round, Gustavo. I can just do one more question. I wish I should get Lisa and Frank in one more time, but I can't, watching our time. We can do one more question, I think, and then we'll let them respond, and then we'll give them closing remarks. So one more question, Gustavo, the last question from our panel. By the way, thank our panel. Gustavo, please thank Gustavo and Lisa and Frank. But I think we can get one more question in, Mr. Ariano from the LA Times.
A lot of times when a politician, especially a high-profile politician, gets into office, they'll put in a portrait or some art memento of someone from the past that they see, that they admire. And not just that, but also to show the public, this is who I model myself after. I want to. Joe Biden, for instance, had a bust of Cesar Chavez in the Oval Office. Donald Trump has Andrew Jackson. So
this is a great last question, by the way. This is a great final question, Gustavo. Go ahead.
What Californian from the past would you put in your office as that example?
From the past, which means it can't be me, Antonio Vieira. So who you got?
Well, I actually did it. I had a bust of Cesar Chavez. I met Cesar when I was 15 years old, leading the farm worker boycott in high school. I came out of the Chicano movement, the civil rights movement, but the labor movement as well. And I saw him as an icon, as someone who stood up for farm workers, for people who work hard and put the food on our table, and particularly now, when we have people working hard every single day, and they can't afford rent, the price of gas, utilities, which have gone up 60%, Tom, as you know, and rent or buy a home. And so, yes, I had his picture. I also had a picture of Martin Luther King and Cesar Chavez. Why? Because I believe that coalition is critical to the future. Putting us together, fighting together to change what's going on in Washington, to make this a better state. I'd be honored to have your support.
Who you going to put on the wall, Betty Yee? Who's on the wall?
Well, someone I think many in this room love dearly. He was a personal friend of mine and my husband, the late Reverend James Lawson. We are celebrating King Weekend and the influence that Reverend Lawson had on Dr. King. The influence that Reverend Lawson had on just his understanding about the state of our society and economy. It's no coincidence that he had such a big hand with the UCLA Labor Center. because he understood what economic justice meant. And so I look at Reverend Lawson as really someone who is prescient in terms of meeting the moment that we are in now, and the moments that we are going to continue to be in, because nothing is given to us. We have to fight, but there's a way to fight where we win and we are stronger for it. Reverend Lawson.
I think everybody in this room knows James Lawson. If you don't, Google him, read about him. On the King weekend, he's the one that invited Dr. King to Memphis, and you know that story. But if you don't know James Lawson, Google him today and read about the Reverend James M. Lawson, Jr. Who you putting on the wall, Javier Becerra?
So I had a bust of Franklin Delano Roosevelt on my desk. I had a photo of some farm workers picking grapes, showing them picking grapes. And I keep with me a photo of John Lewis, who would every year take us to the Edmund Pettus Bridge, Selma, to recreate that walk. And what I will tell you is this: the one I'm proudest of is the photograph of my best man, because my best man was my father. And I needed to figure out a way when I was getting married to reward him for everything that he and my mother had done for me. I found no better way than to give him that prize of saying, you are the most important person as I choose to marry my wife of now some 38 years. My dad is the man who makes me who I am, and he is the one that is not just in my heart, but hangs on my wall.
That's Javier Becerra. Ian Calderon, who you got?
It would be my father, and he was the one that was on my wall when I was in the assembly. This is a man who grew up in East LA in poverty, who got chased home once a week by gangs and had to hide on his roof of his home so that they couldn't beat him up and try to jump him in. Somebody who was the first Latino lawyer ever elected to the state Senate. What he was able to accomplish and where he came from and the life that he was able to build for me and my family, I would not be standing here today if it were not for him. And every time I make a decision, I know that there's going to be no greater champion of me than my father. But I also know that in the back of my head, I'll always have his voice. Son, I'm always proud of you. So the only question you need to ask yourself is, did you try your best? And that portrait was always a reminder that even if I don't succeed, I always have to try my best, and that's my commitment when I become governor.
John Slavitt.
Hey, yeah. I love that. My dad was not born in California.
Y'all missed that on radio, but they just pounded each other. Just give you some color commentary here. Anyway, John Slavitt, go ahead.
Tavis, I want 5 seconds back.
Yeah, you can have it. Go for it.
Thank you, sir. My father was born on the East Coast, the son of refugees from Ukraine who came here by the grace of God through Ellis Island. So I'm an American citizen as a result of their fearlessness. I would have two people on the wall. Hiram Johnson. This is a blast from the past. This is a governor from the old times, and he's the father of the ballot initiative. He believed that if the legislature is not doing their job, the people should have the right to organize, get a ballot, and actually put something to the people for a vote to get it passed. We can thank Hiram Johnson. Look him up. Abe Lincoln would be the other, not a Californian, a Midwesterner. Abe Lincoln stood for unity. Abe Lincoln took the country through one of the most difficult times, arguably the most difficult time, and we need more unity, more listening, more togetherness now.
Tom Starr, who you got?
So I'm from an all-boy family, and I used to say my mom was the biggest boy in the family. But I want to say that the person I'm going to have on my wall is a woman, and it's Dolores Huerta. And I want to talk about why. Because, yes, Dolores was an organizer for the UFW with Cesar Chavez. She has never given up. I think people know she was beaten savagely by the police while she was organizing, but she never stopped. She is the woman who coined the phrase, "Si se puede," which became President Obama's "Yes, we can." She is the woman who, for me, has stood for justice, who has stood up for the underdog, who still dances in her late 80s.
90s.
And really embodies, what are we looking for? People who change the way we see the world. That's what I want on my wall. And Dolores has changed the way people see the world across the state of California and across the world.
I think Dolores is in her 90s now, actually. In her 90s, yeah. Eric Schwab, who you got?
In my congressional office hangs a chief of police badge that belonged to my father. But he was fired. He stood up to a corrupt city council that asked him to reverse cases and tickets that he had charged and issued. I was 6 years old in Algona, Iowa when it happened. He refused to do it, and he lost his job. And we picked up our little family, and we went where everyone goes when the floor falls out, where prospectors went to find gold in a river, where actors go to focus on the one and not so much the in a million. We went to California. And from that lesson, I learned when you make hard decisions, when you're in a leadership position, you have to be willing to lose your job to do what's right. And that's what I'll do as governor every day. That's what my dad did. And that was the best lesson I learned.
Tony Thurmond.
Thank you, Betty, for mentioning Reverend Lawson, who was a mentor to me. Thank you for mentioning John Lewis. His photo sits behind my desk in my office in the state capitol. There are so many, Dolores Huerta is on my desk. I would also continue to put Kamala Harris, who is on my desk, and Barack Obama, and Bill Clinton, and so many others. But we have people in this room who we should be thanking for their service. I see Senator Rod Wright right here in the front. Thank you, Senator, right behind Mark Ridley Thomas's seat. Cecil Williams, an incredible civic leader in the Bay Area. The great late Ron Dellums. Karen Bass, Barbara Lee, speaks for me. So many incredible. Betty Reed Soskin, America's oldest National Park Ranger who just passed away well over 100 years. A black woman who fought hard through so much. The list goes on, but so many great leaders. Thank you.
I've never been in the governor's office. It better be big for all them photos, Tony Thurmond. It better be a big room with a lot of wall space, but I ain't mad at you. All right. We are going to hear now, first of all, one more time for Gustavo and Lisa and Frank. I've done this more times in my career than I can count, but trying to single in on a handful of questions to ask in a forum like this isn't easy to do. You did excellent. Thank you for your questions, and they elicited the kind of responses that we need to hear from these persons who want to be the next governor of the state of California. Now, we will have closing remarks, 1 minute each, in the reverse order of the opening remarks, which means that Javier Becerra gets to go first.
Hardest working, lowest paid. That was my best man. That defines so many of the families of South Los Angeles. We need to fight for them. And during these times of crisis, times of turbulence, it's not just what the candidates say, it's what they've actually done. Prove to me that you can deliver, because once I vote for you, I can't take my vote back. Prove to me you've done that. You say you can take on Donald Trump? Show me. I can show you 120 times when I stood up to Donald Trump to defend you and won. I can show you how I stood up to the opioid industry and got billions to have them pay for the damage they did to so many of our young people. I can show you how Secretary of Health and Human Services, we were able to get vaccines to everybody in the black and brown community, even though they were poor. I know how to land the plane. So when you have a governor, it's not just what I say, it's what I will do.
Please thank Javier Becerra for being here. Please thank him for showing up today. Thank you, Javier. Eric Swalwell.
There's only one candidate on this stage that Donald Trump goes after almost every single week. And it's the one he knows will be a fighter and protector for Californians. But I'm also going to be the CEO of Lowering Costs. And it goes back to the work I did in a place called Dublin. I was a city council member and a planning commissioner there, but it wasn't always called Dublin. When I was growing up there, it was low income and lower expectations. And we worked when I was on the council to bring builders, developers, and labor together to build like crazy, have developers build new schools, new firehouses, new police stations, new senior centers. We gave small businesses a waiver on most fees, and we elevated the retail and the restaurants. And pretty soon, we turned the fortune of the city around. The high school that I graduated from in 1999, 25% of us went to college. Today, 96% of the kids go to college. Wow. I'm going to do that all across the state, from Scrubland to Dublin. We're going to build like crazy. I'm going to get stuff done. And I'm going to be a day one governor. Thank you.
Nicely done, Eric Swalwell. Nicely done. Please thank Eric Swalwell, Congressman, for being here today. Ian Calderon, you're up, sir.
First, I need to thank my wife, who I am just so proud of, and I would not be running for governor had she not blessed this. This is an amazing state. It's an amazing state. We've talked a lot about the challenges that face this state, but there is no other place in the world that I'd rather live than here. Because I was young when I got elected, I was 27 when I got elected, 30 when I became the majority leader. I had a lot of my major life milestones happen when I was in the legislature. And 8 years in, my family, I had 3 of our 4 kids. And as much as I loved what I did, and as much as people kept reminding me I was at the height of my power and influence, I made a decision that nobody makes in that position. I gave that up to go and be with my wife, to raise our kids so that I didn't miss moments that I would regret missing when I look back on this time. But it's going to take a new generation of leadership to lead us forward, and that's what I bring. We have to think differently. We have to be different. We have to be creative and innovative with our solutions, and I believe that I'm the best candidate in this race that is going to represent change and a new path for California. Thank you so much for all your time, and I was proud to be here all morning with you.
Please thank Ian Calderon for showing up today. We appreciate it. If you have just tuned in to KBLA Talk 1580, we are in the remaining moments
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica
of the candidates running for governor here in California. We are convened at the Donald P. Loca Conference Center inside the California Science Center. We are here today courtesy of the 34th Annual Empowerment Congress Summit, and we are in closing remarks now from these 8 persons who have shown up today. You just heard from Ian Calderon. You are now about to hear from Tom Steyer.
I'm running for governor because Californians can't afford to live in California anymore. And that's got to change. It starts with housing, and I'll go through great detail on that. We're going to break up the electric monopolies and drop electricity costs by more than 25%. We're going to go back to being a top 10 education state, because the California dream includes having your kids have a bright future. I have taken on the special interests and beat them every time. I guarantee you, I will take on the special interests and the billionaires, and we will beat them together on behalf of working people in this state. I'll be strong on Trump, but I want to say this. This is MLK weekend. This is about shared prosperity. This is about leaving no one behind. We're the richest state. This can be the greatest state to live in for everyone in the history of the planet Earth if we do this right. That is within our reach, and we have to do that.
Please thank Tom Steyer for being here today. The former mayor of L.A., Antonio Villaraigosa.
I want to thank you all for being here, everybody. And I want to say to you, look, I started out by saying, tell me who you walk with and I'll tell you who you are. I've walked with you. I know what we need right now. We need a uniter. We need a proven problem solver. I was Speaker of the Assembly, largest expansion of health care. I authored it. Toughest assault weapons in the country. I authored it. Balanced 2 budgets with a Republican and a Democrat. When I was mayor, LA was the most violent big city in America. Reduced crime by 50% with constitutional community police. And some of you know Summer Night Lights. Dramatically expanded after-school programs and summer youth jobs. I was a mayor on the job and a speaker on the job. We need a governor that unites us. I tell people right now, with our body politics so polarized, we need people that know how to bring us together, that know how to build coalitions, that can move us forward. And the only way we move forward is not alone, but together. I'd be honored to have your support.
Please thank Antonio Villaraigosa for being here today. Betty Yee.
Thank you, everyone, for the opportunity to join all of you this morning. Thank you to the Empowerment Congress. What we just witnessed here this morning is democracy in action. And let me say something about democracy. It's only as healthy as the ability of each and every one of us to fully participate in it. And it doesn't just stop at an election for governor. It's about every day what we bring in terms of fighting for our communities, being sure that we are taking care of our neighbors, being sure that we have the basics of how we can succeed and thrive. I am leaning in on my deep fiscal and financial credentials and my record of progressive governance to make the state add up for everyone again. Look, I have no aspirations to be president of the United States. I want to be a governor, and I want to do this job well. And I'm going to be sure that when we do it well, and when we talk about democracy, it is about how we deliver transparently with accountability and being sure that when we are spending your dollars, that you're seeing what is going to be in place in your very own communities that will help you and your families thrive. I'd be honored to have your support.
Please thank Betty Yee for being here today. Tony Thurmond.
Thank you for spending part of your Martin Luther King Jr. weekend with us and for giving us this opportunity to share with you. It's not lost on me that because of Dr. King's journey and his sacrifice that I'm before you. As a 57-year-old black man of Latino descent, none of my family has ever run for any office. And together we can bring the people together. Brown, black, and everyone to have economic prosperity. I was in my basement. I was doing breakdancing and I was doing salsa. We will bring the black and the brown together and economic prosperity for us all. You're going to have to select from all of us, but think about experience and vision in those who have the lived experience of those that we are trying to serve, those who are struggling. I lost both of my parents by the time I was 12 years old. Grew up on food stamps, free lunch, and government cheese. I thought that USDA was a brand name. I know what it is to struggle, and Californians are struggling. I'm going to be a governor who takes care of all the people of California. Thank you so much for the opportunity today.
If this don't work out, he can always go to the Apollo. Please thank Tony Thurmond for being here. John Slavitt, your closing remarks, sir.
I want a salsa at Tony's house.
Got a break dance.
That's the way we get together. Dancing is the way we get together. Well, thank you so much to the organizers. Real honor to be on this stage with this auspicious group. And I'll say this. How about hiring a doer as the next governor, as opposed to a talker? How about someone who gets things done? Hundreds and hundreds of jobs, blue collar, white collar, in cities in California all across the country. I had a wonderful opportunity to spend time with Willie Brown last July. Went to his office in the Embarcadero in San Francisco. He was on my podcast. We spent time together. And I said to him, what is the biggest political lesson you learned in your career? And he tugged his ear. And he said, I listened. And did you know that more Republicans elected him than Democrats when he became Speaker? We need to get together again. I'm doing this to be a uniter, bring Republicans, Independents, and Democrats together to change the state with better leadership. Thank you so much.
Please thank John Slavitt for being here today. This is, of course, the King holiday weekend, and Dr. King famously said many years ago that cowardice asks, is it safe? Expediency asks, is it politic? Vanity asks, is it popular? But conscience asks, is it right? And every now and then we must take positions that are neither safe, politic, or convenient, but we do it because our conscience tells us that it is right. I hope that our individual and collective consciences here in California tell us that the time is always right to do what is right, and that we will take this decision seriously about who will be the next governor of California. Now stand at your feet and show them some love like you mean it. Javier Becerra, Ian Calderon, John Slavitt, Tom Steyer, Eric Swalwell, Tony Thurmond, Antonio Villaraigosa, Betty Yee, Gustavo Ariana, Lisa Collins, Frank Stokes, and the Empowerment Congress. Give them some love.
Good to see you. Likewise.
For those listening live on radio,
we'd love to.
many of the candidates are now headed backstage, and they will be talking to my colleague, Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and offer some post-forum assessments. There's some other VIPs gathered today that you'll hear as well. So I pass the mic now to Dr. Quartey. Dr. Quartey, for those listening on radio, in this room, please welcome back to the stage our summit chair today, Arna Fulcher.
Thank you, Tavis. You are listening to and streaming KBLA Talk 1580. We have just had a chance to experience a number of the leading candidates for governor on stage at the California Governor's Candidate Forum organized by the Empowerment Congress. This is the 34th annual summit entitled From Vision to Action, a forum to unlock participatory democracy. Some of the biggest questions on the minds of everyday Californians, and dare I say even in the pockets of everyday Californians, being addressed on stage today. We will have a chance to speak with as many of the candidates that we can squeeze into this next hour as a part of our post-debate analysis, as a part of our post-debate commentary. So many things said, but so many things not said on that stage. The very first candidate that is joining me to participate in our post-debate wrap is Representative Eric Swalwell. Hot off the stage, literally. How well do you think you did?
Great. And really just engaging with the community, listening, always recognizing that you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Use them in proportion. And
well, you certainly used your mouth quite a bit on stage. Talk to us about what you didn't get a chance to talk about enough on stage. You all, talk through a number of important issues to everyday Californians, but what do you wish you would have had a chance to talk more about?
Housing and small business growth. So right now in California, the average age of a first-time home buyer is 40 years old. My promise is that we will be a state where you can take your first job, buy your first home, have your first kid in the same decade. We're going to build like crazy. But right now we have 400,000 regulations on the book. We are a blue state held down by red tape. And so I'm going to put a 90-day shot clock on every agency. I'm going to tell them you have 90 days to approve or deny every outstanding housing application so that we can surge supplying the state. On small businesses, start a new business in California, you're in luck. We're going to give you a tax-free holiday for 3 years so that we increase hiring to bring down the highest unemployment rate in the country, surge business-to-business revenue, and have a more permanent tax base for the state to pay for health care and education.
Data centers that are booming across very familiar with the players in Silicon Valley and beyond. Tell the people, what maybe you didn't have a chance to talk about enough related to these data centers and the drain that it's putting on our energy grid and our water supply, and what you would intend to do as governor of California.
Look, we're the 4th largest economy in the world. We love that. We say that with pride. But why does it cost so much to live here? And so you look at an AI economy that, of course, we want to be the capital for AI, but we have to expect that those invested in it, those who are running it, are not creating more problems than they solve. And so I will bring them to the table. I'll work with the legislature, make sure that they are solving the problems of water, energy, and make sure that Californians, everyday Californians, get something out of this. I want every Californian to be a shareholder in the 4th largest economy in the world, not just someone who rattles that off as a data point.
And finally, in our final question to you, Representative Swalwell, you just came back from Washington. You were there on the January 6th anniversary. You've been out front trying to hold this administration accountable. Is there anything you want to underscore to the people in terms of what you would do, not as a member of Congress, but as governor, to create that firewall between the people of California and the Trump administration?
If you can't protect your people, no other policy can happen. My first priority is to be a fighter, protector for the state. I've done that in Congress, holding this guy accountable. I will do that to ICE. And you referenced January 6th, and the parallel between January 6th and what these ICE agents are doing, shooting a woman in the face 3 times, is they're telling us not to believe our own eyes. But we saw this with our own eyes. And so we want accountability. So as governor, to ICE, I say this: if you're going to harm a Californian, hire the best lawyer, because I'm going to bring justice. I'm going to take away your immunity. I'm going to require you to wear a mask, or you're going to lose your driver's license. And I'm going to work with the law enforcement community to make sure that you're held accountable. Because right now, our immigrant community, they're running through the fields and factories where they work. We're seeing children afraid to go to school. It's hurting not just our economy, but our sense of community and first and foremost, my job is to protect people, and I'll do that as governor, as I have done for the last 10 years against this president.
Our thanks to Representative Eric Swalwell for joining us. Congratulations. Come back again soon. You are listening to our special coverage. We are live. We are live right now. We are live here at the California Governor's Candidate Forum, the 34th annual summit here. And sitting next to me, we have Calderon, the former majority leader in the California State Assembly. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
How well do you think you did?
I think I did my best.
What was your mission? What was your mission on the stage this morning? What is the message you most wanted to convey to all of our leaders, learners, and listeners, but particularly the folks who gather here at the Empowerment Congress?
I mean, the mission was to introduce people to me so that they can hear the message and really push the fact that I think we need a new generation of leadership to solve the challenges that are impacting this state. And I think that I'm the one that best represents that future of leadership that you're seeing happening across this country. I mean, Mom Donnie in New York and these other candidates, all the retirements that are happening in Congress, the baton of leadership is literally being passed to the next generation. And I think that California is not going to miss that moment and is going to want to be a part of that moment.
Is there any one thing that you didn't get a chance to talk enough about on the debate stage? Is there anything that you want to amplify for our leaders, learners, and listeners?
Yeah, I mean, I think especially around housing and how important that is. I mean, the lack of housing and affordability it's tied to poverty, it's tied to homelessness, the lack of affordability, high cost of living in this state. So we have to create more pathways to home ownership. I'm from a generation and future generations that have been told you're going to be a renter for your entire life. We've said that home ownership isn't for you. The average age of a first-time home buyer is 40 years old. And we have corporate and foreign speculative interests that are pricing us out of our homes, pricing us out of our communities. And you know, you talk about history, you know, this is just a different version of redlining that these communities have had to face over decades. And so you make it and you deal with redlining, and now you're in a position where you've got these speculative interests that are pricing you out of home ownership and keeping you from being able to build that generational wealth. Housing is so important, and you know, my plan in being able to charge fees to these corporate foreign investors is what we're going to turn around and use to fund tax credits so that you can save for a down payment and lower the cost of your property taxes when you're a homeowner.
Our thanks to the Honorable Ian Calderon, former California State Assembly member and candidate for governor. Thank you for joining us. We are live here on KBLA Talk 1580. We have the opportunity to talk with all of the candidates. So far, good. All the candidates that were on the debate stage. I'm now joined by the Honorable Javier Becerra, our former United States Secretary of Health and Human Services, the former Attorney General for the state of California, someone who has served in Congress for many years. Thank you for joining us.
First, I got to say thanks to KBLA for hosting this. A very loyal audience. Looking forward to continue to stay in touch.
Well, absolutely. Listen, I've got to ask you, what was your mission on the debate stage today, and did you achieve that mission?
My mission is the reason I'm running for governor, and that is to make it clear to, as I said, in South Los Angeles, so many of our hardworking, the lowest paid workers, hardest working, lowest paid, have to believe that California is where they can make their home and they can retire here. I want them to know that that's what my parents, a construction worker and clerical worker, with nothing more than, in my dad's case, a sixth grade education. My mom didn't come here till she was 18 when she came from Mexico. They were able to figure out how to buy a house. They sent my three sisters and I to college or the military. They retired in dignity, not in Idaho or Arizona, here in California. I want Californians to know that is still the future, that is still the promise, and my hope is that the hardest working, lowest paid, especially those families here in South Los Angeles, believe that that's their future and they can have that promise.
Secretary Becerra, I mentioned earlier that you're the former Attorney General for the state of California. You invoked that a number of times on the debate stage. I've got to ask you about this Insurrection Act, with the current White House threatening to invoke the Insurrection Act against protesters in states across the country, including our own. What's your day one plan to protect the civil liberties of Californians if federal troops are deployed to quell local social justice demonstrations?
First, there is no legality. There's no basis for him to declare that there's an insurrection. Secondly, we control the streets It is the state's prerogative under the Constitution to provide public safety, not the federal government's. ICE agents have their rights as federal law enforcement, but they do not have a right to be on our streets just trying to cause havoc. And so what we're going to do is we're going to use our law enforcement to say, we have our streets. You do your ICE work, but we have the streets. And we're going to make it very clear. And I, as I said in the forum, I believe we have to use not the politicians, but our law enforcement leaders, our sheriffs, our police chiefs, to make that message very clear, because these are colleagues. And at the end of the day, they've been working together. When I was AG, I worked with ICE, with FBI, with DEA at the same time that I was suing them to stop them from doing illegality during Trump's first term. You have to know how to be able to go at them when they're violating the law, but work with them when they're trying to help us protect citizens against lawful activity.
Secretary Becerra, a last question. As governor of California, if elected, you're going to need to partner with local leaders across the state, including the mayor of Los Angeles. Have you endorsed the reelection of L.A. Mayor Karen Bass, or do you plan to do so?
So I've been working with Karen Bass for decades. In fact, when she came to Congress, she was one of the first people I turned to help me when I was chair of the Democratic caucus in the House, help me reach out to our colleagues. And so I think Karen Bass is going to surprise people and do very, very well in this election. Obviously, running for governor, I've been trying to stay away from some of these other races because I got mine to worry about. But Karen and I have been friends for a long time, and she's going to do her job of making sure she gets her message across. I have no doubt about that. That's the Karen Bass I've always known.
So she has your support for re-election?
Oh, I will talk to her about those things, because one of those days comes when we all have to make decisions, and I know that she's working really hard for her re-election, just as I'm working hard to become the next governor.
Our thanks to former Health and Human Services Secretary Javier Becerra. Come back again soon.
Look forward to it.
We are live on KBLA Talk 1580. We're just moments ago. We enjoyed a couple hours of conversation, of debate from the leading candidates for governor of California, the fourth largest economy in the world, one of the most populous states in the country. And I'm really delighted to welcome the next candidate for governor, Mr. Slavic. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
And so I've got to give credit where credit's due. You are the only Republican candidate for governor of California that took the Empowerment Congress up on their invitation to show up and share what you believe, share your vision for the future of California. Talk to us about why it was important for you to be here.
It's important to be here because to unite our state and to lift up our middle and working class people, we got to do it together. We've got to find common solutions. We may not agree on everything, on policy, but we've got to find common ground. So this is a very important community. I'm going to all of the important communities in my race.
And what also makes you really interesting, I thought it was kind of cute at the beginning during your opening statements where you mentioned how many kids you have. Mm-hmm. Tell the people who may have missed that how many kids you have. Sure. and how committed you are to their future.
Yeah, this is personal. Anyone who has children in California and hears their kids say, I don't think I can afford to live here, that should get your back up. I've got 5 kids ranging from 1-year-old to 20. As I mentioned on stage, there's pretty much not a day that goes by that I'm not in the house, helping with the cooking, cleaning, changing diapers. It's a team effort. It's a full court effort when you've got that many kids. And I'm very proud of them, and I think about them every day in terms of their future in this state, like everyone should be.
Yeah. I've got to ask you, there was a lot of talk on the debate stage about reducing the cost of housing and reducing the cost of energy. Those seem to be 2 of your favorite issues to talk about. We didn't hear nearly enough about these data centers that are popping up, not just across the country, but particularly here in California. Is there anything that you wish you could have said or wanted to say about the influx of these data centers and their drain on our energy grid and our water supply?
Mm-hmm. Well, listen, stepping back on energy, I disagree with many of the people on the stage because we've been an energy scarcity state. We need to produce more energy from all sources, renewable baseload power, to actually lower the costs. We also need to end the climate taxes we're imposing on the energy producers. That's getting passed directly along to the consumer. The reason you pay twice the national average for electricity, the reason you pay $1 or $1.50 more a gallon for your gas is because you're being taxed by the state for that. I'll end that and put that money back into the pocket of people. You should be paying $20 less per tank that you're filling. And that's because of taxing energy producers in this state. We can also protect the environment. We've got the best and most detailed environmental laws in California. We can have both. Energy abundance, lower costs, protect the environment.
Mr. Slavik, final question, again, as the only Republican on the debate stage today. There are some of our leaders, learners, and listeners that may not have seen enough distinction between you and the current leader of the Republican Party, Donald Trump. For folks who are less clear, I want to give you an opportunity to make it more clear. What is it that the president is doing that for you is a bridge too far, where you want to make it very clear that you are not MAGA, that you are not in support of Trump on said issue? What issue is that?
Well, first of all, I'm my own man. I don't speak for a party. I don't speak for the president. I'm looking to be an independent-minded Republican governor of California to represent all the people of California. That's the first important thing to say. There are certain policies where I agree and certain policies where I disagree. I think what Trump is doing to negotiate down drug prices for people so we pay the same as what people pay in Europe, that is a great idea. I think I said on stage that on immigration, I would take a different approach. I believe we have to treat our immigrants with dignity and respect, but I would cut a deal with the Trump administration so that we can actually restore California's sovereignty and actually have peace on our streets. So there are areas of agreement, areas of disagreement, but I'm my own guy.
Are there areas where you say the president is absolutely dead wrong?
Absolutely dead wrong. Well, there probably are. There probably are. I think that the approach to immigration needs to be a California solution that works for our people and our immigrant population and the rest of our citizens.
Our thanks to Mr. Slavik for joining us here live on KBLA Talk 1580. Good luck to you. Come back again soon. We are live here at the California Governor's Candidate Forum, where we are debriefing with all of the candidates here. Joining us now is Tom Steyer. Tom Steyer, probably the only billionaire on the stage, but thank you for being here.
It's a total honor and pleasure on MLK weekend to be here.
Talk to us about why it was important for you to be here. There's a lot of places you could have been here in the state of California. You chose the Empowerment Congress. Why?
Well, first of all, the guy who started the Empowerment Congress is Mark Ridley Thomas, who I've known for a long time, who came out here as a representative of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, which is a direct outgrowth from Dr. King. This is MLK weekend. The spirit, the vision, the sacrifice of Dr. King is probably the most significant event in America for a couple hundred years. It's absolutely critical. I think if you want to represent justice, equality, and shared prosperity where we leave no one behind, that we acknowledge and honor the history of Dr. King. And this is a direct line, and the people who are running this are the descendants morally and in vision of that great leader. So, of course, I want to be here. And, of course, I consider it an honor to be here, and as well as a pleasure.
Mr. Steyer, during your opening statements, you said a lot of things. You reminded us that your mom was a teacher and your dad was a Navy vet. But you also reminded us that you're not new to this, you're true to this in terms of the fight for working people, having taken on oil companies and tobacco companies. You said something that really stood out to me, though. I don't owe anybody anything. What did you mean by that, and who on the stage does owe somebody something?
Well, look, the reason that I was the person who took on the oil companies is no one else wanted the job. It wasn't like I'm so great. No one else wanted the job. We took on the tobacco companies after the legislature had failed 15 or 20 times because people are scared. Not that they want to do the right thing, but these are powerful people with lobbyists and PACs and everything else. Same with the multinationals. When I say I'm going after the electric monopolies, I don't hear anybody going like, Tom, what a great idea, me too. Because those are powerful companies with lobbyists. I don't need their money. I don't want their money. I've never taken their money. I never will take their money. If they hate me, it's okay. I can take on the billionaires because I don't care. They're not going to support me. I don't need them to support me. The only thing I care about is this. I want to represent the working families of California. We have a chance to have the most successful and most just society in the history of the planet Earth. To do it, we're going to have to make some changes. We're going to have to take on some fights. I totally get that. But let's just remember to keep our eye on the prize. That's the prize. Shared prosperity where we leave no one behind. That is within our grasp. We've got to focus on it, and we have got to be strong in the way that Dr. King was strong in taking on corrupt, unjust interests.
Mr. Steyer, there's a lot of folks who know you for your environmental work, and a few weeks ago, I had a number of survivors of the Eaton Fire that were on my afternoon drive time show on KBLA Talk 1580, A More Perfect Union. And one of the very troubling things that they shared is that their calls for the California Attorney General to launch an independent investigation related to the Eaton Fire has fallen on deaf ears. If you were elected governor of California, talk to us about what you would do to ensure that the people of Altadena get that independent investigation that they are asking for.
Of course I'm for that, but let me just say this, and I tried to say that in the forum today. That fire didn't just happen. That fire was inevitable, and it's the way the monopoly electric companies get compensated, and it's wrong. They get paid for making investments, for building infrastructure, for building grid. They don't get paid at all for keeping it up. The spark from that fire came from a SoCal Edison line that hadn't been used for 50 years, that they hadn't kept up. They don't get paid to do it. We really need to have a much more community-based electric system, a cheaper electric system. Monopolies have a rule. And their rule is provide the worst service for the highest price. And if you don't like it, guess what? We're a monopoly. So you have no choice. We have to change that. And when I think about the people who suffered in the Eaton Fire, look, this is a stop the world moment for them and therefore for the governor. This is a time to say, okay, nothing can stand in the way of us getting regress for these people. And that means dealing with the insurance companies. It means dealing with SoCal Edison. It means dealing with the bureaucracy. It means dealing with FEMA. It's getting it done and understanding that's got to be job one. When stop the world, everything else is priority two.
Our thanks to Tom Steyer, candidate for governor of California. Please come back again soon. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580. We are live, right here at the Empowerment Congress's California Governor's Candidate Forum. It was an action-packed couple hours on the debate stage, and joining me now is the one and only, the Honorable Betty Yee. Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure to be here.
And so talk to us about why it was important for you to be here at the Empowerment Congress's Candidate Forum. There's so many other places you could have been. Why here? Why now?
Well, let me just say the Empowerment Congress and why particularly important always during an election year is because this is really about democracy at work, as I mentioned at the end of my remarks. You know, when we see community members come out, when we see them connecting with our elected officials and candidates, when we get to listen to the issues that are top of mind for them, this is what democracy is about. It's about participation and about the broadest degree of civic participation. And so how could I not be here as a candidate? I mean, it is the most, frankly, you made it easy for us to be the most informed about some of the key issues in this region than many other forums do.
As the former California state controller, as somebody who has served on the Board of Equalization here in California, you know a lot about California's finances. It's easy to get up there and to make promises and to say, you know, we're going to bring single payer to California. But there were a few moments where you and some other candidates had some pretty sobering remarks about California's fiscal future. For our leaders, learners, and listeners that might have missed it,
sure.
Say it to us plain.
Sure. So California is a global economy, but yet what we see in terms of our budget and our fiscal situation is we have a revenue tax system that's very, very dependent on our upper income earners, very stock market driven, all about capital gains. And so you can imagine how volatile that is. When the economy is doing great, we have great surpluses. When it's not doing well, we have deficits that are quite deep. And so what I'm saying is essentially we right now, with that kind of a system, it's progressive. We want people who earn more to pay more. But it is not adequate to really fund all of the needs that we have. We have not been able to meet our needs for quite some time, for the last several years. We're going to have budget deficits for the next period of years. If we keep relying on that kind of a revenue system, we're going to have these peaks and valleys. And frankly, the valleys really hurt us. They hurt us with respect to cuts to healthcare, to education. And so we just have to be sanguine about how do we build that resilience against that. Some of it is raising more revenue, but it's also about how do we do service delivery different? How do we make sure that we're still serving people in the most effective and efficient ways, and then also looking at bringing on more of the use of technology. So it's all to say that, you know, our job, and frankly it's a bipartisan issue, is service delivery at the end of the day when you break it all down. So the CEO of the state just has to make sure that Californians are being served and in the most effective and efficient way possible. We have to be transparent about our revenues, and if we don't have enough, then we make the case for more.
Final question. What's your response to folks that say, okay, you know, Betty Yee seems very strong when it comes to fiscal matters, when it comes to good governance, but when it comes to fighting back aggressively against the Trump administration, you know, how can we expect her to show up in the role of governor?
Let me just say this. I want to continue what Governor Newsom has done. Anytime our rights are being attacked, anytime our funding has been threatened, we are going to fight. And that is, I think, what everybody on that stage will do. But the antidote, frankly, to how we get out of this is building and investing in our strength and our communities here. We lost the election last November because we took our eye off the prize in terms of what people were not getting, people were feeling in their pocketbooks, we're not delivering fast enough. We have to make that a priority. Of course, we're going to fight back against Trump. We can't do it without the federal government, but we have got to be sure that we're delivering for Californians as well at the same time. So my big fight with Trump, with the Trump administration, let's reverse the $170 billion that we're spending on mass immigration enforcement by ICE. Let's shut down the $45 billion for massive detention facilities. That's our money that he is actually using to fund those things that are at the expense of our healthcare and education.
Our thanks to former California State Controller, the Honorable Betty Yee. Please come back again soon.
Always.
You are listening to KBLA Talk 1580. We are live on the air. I hope you all have enjoyed the California Governor's Candidate Forum as much as I have. Joining me now is someone who's no stranger to the people of LA, the former mayor of Los Angeles, Antonio Villaraigosa. Welcome, sir.
Thank you for having me. And also no stranger to KBLA. I listen to the Tavis Smiley show, by the way.
Well, and you can listen to my show in afternoon drive time as well. But a more perfect union from 4 to 6 since you're listening. But talk to us about what you hope to accomplish on the debate stage today. And do you think you accomplished it?
You know, debates are great. They give people an opportunity to share your views, your positions. And, you know, most of us are Democrats, so there wasn't a lot of divergence in terms of what we had to say. The reason why I focus so much on the record, because the best way to know what somebody's going to do is to see what they've done in the past. And that's why I talked about the fact that a lot of what we're facing today are things that I've dealt with and dealt with successfully. I spoke about the fact that we need a proven problem solver, somebody who's done it before. When I was Speaker, balanced two budgets with a surplus, authored the largest expansion of health care, healthy families, millions of kids got health care, toughest assault weapons ban, and the biggest effort to clean up the air. When I was mayor, LA was one of the most violent big cities in America. Crime went down nearly 50% with constitutional community policing, grew the police department, but also invested in after-school programs, summer youth jobs, and importantly, summer night lights. Number one American city in reducing greenhouse gases, number 5 in the world, and built more infrastructure than anybody in America. When I was mayor, there was cranes everywhere. But most importantly, what we need right now, at a time when we're so divided, we need uniters. You know, we need people that want to bring us together so we can get things done. Take on affordability, the fact that people can't afford this state.
Mr. Mayor, it's not lost on me, it's not lost on a number of our leaders, learners, and listeners that the president is serious about finding ways to invoke the Insurrection Act. It is no longer theoretical. It's no longer a veiled threat. It is a clear and present danger. Should you be elected the next governor of California, tell the people how you would meet the moment, considering the enormity of that threat.
You know, look, we all said more or less the same thing. We need to use the courts to vindicate the Constitution, our civil liberties, and our civil rights. Who better to do that than the former president of the ACLU, moi, someone who came out of the civil rights movement, the Chicano movement before that, and very importantly, a labor leader. But we also need to do more. We need to energize and educate people around the vote. We have got to vote this man out. This is a country of laws. This man is violating the law, and we have got to hold him accountable. But finally, the only way for us to truly take him on is to build a movement of the willing, of people who understand that ICE agents that come dressed from head to toe, dressed like the Ku Klux Klan, all covered up with assault weapons and flashbang grenades, violently arresting people, oftentimes citizens, is unacceptable and something we cannot tolerate in this city and in this country. But the only way to really fight him is to build that mass peaceful movement for change, for the Constitution, for the Bill of Rights, for, as they like to say, American values. And American values are, thou shalt not discriminate. We are all created equal, and we are all equal. And we've got to vindicate those values.
Mayor Villaraigosa, final question. The streets say, this is what the streets tell me. They say, we know Mayor Villaraigosa. We're familiar with his record. He's been around. Why not move out the way and allow for somebody new, allow for the next generation? You heard this argument very often when folks were looking for their options compared to President Biden. What do you say to folks who maybe don't have the value for experience, the kind of experience you just laid out, and are looking for a fresh face, a fresh voice, somebody they believe is maybe more innovative?
Well, first of all, let me be clear about this. I've been on the streets of Los Angeles, on the streets of Fresno, San Francisco, and San Diego. And what people are mostly focused on is someone who could lead us to get things done. Yes, they're murmuring about that. But at the end of the day, the best way to know what somebody's going to do, because talking is cheap, is to see what they've done. And I've always surrounded myself by young people, by innovation, by diversity. 70% of my staff and 70% of my appointments were of color. No mayor had done that before me. And afterwards, no mayor had done that until Karen. And so I could tell you, I'm going to bring in young people. I'm going to listen to them. I'm going to work with them. But I got a lot of young people in my family. And you know what they want? They want somebody's going to get things done.
All right, we heard it here from the mayor, the former mayor of Los Angeles, former California State Assembly Speaker Antonio Villaraigosa. Thank you for joining us. Come back again soon. All right. Thank you. You are listening to KBLA Talk 1580. I hope you've enjoyed the California Governor's Candidate Forum as much as I have. It's always fun to talk to some of the political leaders that have ideas on how to make our lives better. But you don't always have a chance to talk to a soap opera star. And I'm really delighted to be in conversation here with my friend, Eric Braden. He is the actor that plays Victor Newman on Young and the Restless, has been doing so for 45 years.
I'm here with Dr. Q.
You are. And, first of all, my sincere sympathies to you and your family. A lot of people may not know this, but you lost your home in the Palisades fire last year. Did you hear enough from the candidates on the stage about wildfire victims, wildfire survivors?
There were some interesting comments. I would say the most important issue that needs to be discussed right now is the genesis of the problem with the fire department, who did not give certain orders. In other words, we know of fire trucks who were stationed on the beach and were never told to go ahead and fight the fires. Then I know there was a disconnect between the LAFD and the WDP for years, apparently. So the infrastructure has been neglected, obviously. That is one of the most vulnerable areas in all of LA, all the mountain areas. We love to live there, but it's not adequately taken care of. I sometimes have the feeling that downtown is too far away from all those areas. And those areas pay the most taxes, as you know. So how they're going to solve the problem, I don't know. But certainly there were some ideas today. More fire-resistant material, more preventive care on the hillsides, etc., etc. But I was very impressed with the panel, to be frank with you. There are a number of very good people there.
Who stood out to you the most?
Well, negatively, one particular person, but I won't mention him. And otherwise, no. Okay. I'm very impressed with all of them. I really was, I have to say. Becerra impressed me, Steyer impressed me, and obviously my man impressed me, the guy from Northern California. And
Eric Swalwell?
Eric Swalwell impressed me a great deal, has for a long time. He has stood up to Trump. He and Adam Schiff have stood up to Trump, and Swalwell has done it vociferously over and over again. That I admire him for. He's a good man, okay? And his opposition to Trump and the Trump administration impresses me, and he continues to do so at great personal risk. That impresses me. Okay?
Yeah. I mean, a number of folks on stage fighting back from their offices against the Trump administration. In some cases, as you mentioned, former Attorney General Javier Becerra fighting back as Attorney General during the first Trump administration. Talk to us about what it is that you think that we should be paying more attention to at this stage in the race. We know that Rick Caruso announced just yesterday that he will not be running for governor of California, nor will he be running for mayor of Los Angeles. And so a lot of people who feel like, the race has tightened up quite a bit.
Look, I think the most important issue right now is the Trump administration, is all the egregious affronts to civility, to the rule of law committed by that administration on a daily basis. The fact that ICE was in this town, the fact that ICE is right now in Minneapolis and wreaking havoc is outrageous. This man is getting away with flaunting the law. This country is based on the rule of law, not on the basis based on religion, not based on one person, not based on monarchy, on the rule of law. That is what makes America great, period. Has from the beginning. That's why it was different from other nations in the world. And we need to get back to that. We cannot have this clown who is running our White House right now, dictate a whole change in culture, whole abuse of power, abuse of the law. We cannot allow that. That is the major issue facing America right now, and facing the world, by the way. He's in the process of ruining NATO.
Yeah.
That ass. Okay? That's outrageous. Who is that pipsqueak? That bullshit artist? That fraud? All right? Now, Tavis told me not to.
Yes, we're live on the air.
Can't help it.
We go send the FCC receipts to you. Our thanks to Eric Braeden, the actor that we love so much, who plays Victor Newman on The Young and the Restless. Thank you for your activism and all the ways you use your voice.
Thank you for your show.
Thank you.
I think Tavis Smiley is doing a hell of a job.
That's right.
And I was very impressed with the entire panel today.
Yes.
Including, Betty Yee?
Betty Yee, yeah.
Very, very interesting, very impressive.
Yes.
So, and of course, Villaraigosa,
Yes.
My God, they've been there. They've been in the trenches. They know what they're doing.
They have. Our thanks to Eric Braeden for joining us. We are live here at the California Governor Candidate Forum, really organized by the Empowerment Congress. And listen, if you don't Google anything else today, Google Empowerment Congress, because it's not easy for a community organization to grow and develop over the course of 34 years. And the Empowerment Congress didn't just fall off of a turnip truck. The Empowerment Congress was the brainchild, was a part of the vision of the Honorable Mark Ridley Thomas, who is getting in position to join me while we are live here on air right now. The Honorable Mark Ridley Thomas is with us. We're live. Come on over here. Scoot over here.
Good evening.
Good afternoon. So talk with the people. 34 years later, here we are at the Empowerment Congress. It's MLK weekend. We're hosting a critical conversation, a critical time for our state and for our country, for the world, the California Governor's Candidate Forum right here. Talk to us about why it was so important for the Empowerment Congress to host this forum right now.
Well, some things don't change, and the need for representation and the basic commitment for respect are ingredients or elements of how communities get recognized. So the Empowerment Congress, born of struggle, the backdrop was crisis, and now, some 30 years later, we have the capacity, 34 years later, we have the capacity to reflect on that. We have the capacity to build on that. And that's precisely what we are doing. These candidates needed to see this community. And shout out to KBLA for carrying it, for collaborating with us. This is our fourth collaboration on EC-related activities. And that's why I think KBLA plays such an indispensably important role. I said that in my remarks earlier today. I mean it, and it is a part of the civic literacy that has to happen. The civic IQ of our community is significantly in the hands of KBLA. And I plan to do my part to advance that, to challenge others to embrace it, because it's just important. Democracy thrives only in the context of a literate electorate. Ignorance is the enemy of democracy. And so the Empowerment Congress insists on education, engagement, and empowerment. That's our mantra, and it won't change.
During your opening statements, you made clear that we're here to say our lives matter. You invoked the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., reminding us all how much you embrace it, and reminding us that of all forms of inequality, injustice, and to health care is the most shocking and inhumane. I'm talking to the person who made sure on your watch that King Hospital didn't go under, right? And so flashback to this moment where healthcare feels like it's under complete attack, with cuts to Medicaid, with the okie doke happening in terms of Medicare reimbursements. Talk to us about where we go from here, and what questions should we be interrogating these candidates for governor with on the campaign trail?
It's simply insufficient to invoke the phrase, health care is a right, not a privilege, without a plan. Candidates have to have plans. Candidates have to have policies that are articulated. And so when we make reference to MLK Hospital, I had a mandate, and my commitment was to make sure that hospital was rebuilt. Patient care would be first and foremost at all times, and it would be in many ways the pride of the County of Los Angeles healthcare delivery system, and it is. 10 years ago, we opened that hospital, and it's done remarkably well. And so the role of a candidate is to talk about what he or she wishes to see accomplished. The role of an elected official is to accomplish it, to make concrete the things that you talk about. It's not easy, but it's critical. And with more than 100,000 emergency room visits annually at the MLK Community Hospital, it makes it concrete. That's what it's about.
Our thanks to the Honorable Mark Ridley Thomas, the founder of the Empowerment Congress. God bless you. God bless you. Thank you for continuing the important work on the front lines. In our remaining minutes before we hit to the top of the hour, we have one last candidate for governor who's going to be joining us right here. I'm talking about the Honorable Tony Thurmond. He is here with us. Welcome. We are live on the air. Thank you for being here. Talk to us about what you hope to accomplish on the debate stage today, and did you achieve that?
You know, I hope that people will see a way to differentiate between all these candidates, because everybody's a good person, but this is not about friendship. This is about what we're going to do for people who are struggling in this state. And so today I laid out a very clear plan that we can build 2 million housing units, that we can get good paying jobs for folks. And to be clear, I'm going to get a tax credit for working people in our state, so they have more money in their pocket to pay for gas, for housing, and groceries. And the best way to do that is to tax the billionaires, so we have more money for the working people of our state. And so I think we got our message across, and I thank you and KBLA for giving us the space to be able to speak with voters directly.
In about a minute, I want to give you an opportunity to tell the people about your support for legislation to keep ICE out of schools and hospitals. This is an issue that's important, not just to the people of LA and California, but across this country right now.
ICE is disrupting all of our communities, and it's costing us. And so I wrote legislation that the governor has signed that says ICE can't be in our schools. And I supported legislation that says ICE has to stay out of hospitals and emergency rooms. We have rights, and I hope that your followers will know that you have a right to say no when ICE knocks on your door. Unless they have a judicial warrant, you don't have to cooperate with them. And so it is important that we know our rights, and the legislation that I've gotten passed helps Californians to be safe in their home, in their schools, and in their communities.
Our thanks to the Honorable Tony Thurmond. Congratulations. Come back again soon.
Look forward to it.
All right. And so, look, teamwork makes the dream work. And we have an incredible team at KBLA Talk 1580 that helps to keep everybody honest. You're looking at our very own Tavis Smiley and my colleague here, our colleague Adrienne Shropshire. She's the host of Black Pack on Fridays on KBLA Talk 1580 from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific. In our remaining minutes, what were each of your biggest takeaway from this afternoon's forum?
Yeah, I think that the biggest takeaway, and some of the candidates addressed this, is that the role of the governor of California is extremely complicated in this next era. Not only do they have to address the primary challenges of the state and for the residents of the state, and that they listed off a whole number of issues, right, that will be important from housing to economic opportunity to water, right? But they also have to act as a foreign adversary to the United States government.
That's right. Tavis?
I thought it was just great to have so many of them turn out. These forums are not easy to do because people have to align schedules all at the same time in the same place. So I thought it was great that so many turned out. Again, these things allow for you to get at least a top line understanding of what they care about, what matters to them. They're not meant for in-depth dialogues, but that's why KBLA Talk 1580 is here. So on your program, More Perfect Union, weekday afternoons, Dominique's program, First Things First, 6 to 9 a.m., Adrian on Fridays, 4 to 6 p.m. We have my show. We have an opportunity to go a little deeper in the coming days. But I think today was a good taste of what some of these candidates have to offer. Nii-Quartelai, and I thank you for spending this last hour talking to so many of them, sir.
Absolutely. Thanks to each of you, and thanks to all of our leaders, learners, and listeners who have tuned in. We hope that you have been fed by this forum, by this conversation. Our thanks to the team over at the Empowerment Congress for all the organizing work that went into pulling this together. To everyone at KBLA Talk 1580, everyone here at the California Science Center, right across from my alma mater, the University of Southern California. Fight on.
Shameless plug for USC. But the Hoosiers are playing for the national title this week. Go IU.
All right.
That's our time. You've been listening to KBLA Talk 1580 on location at the California Science Center at the California Governor's Candidate Forum. Be sure to tune in on Monday. We're going to replay the entire forum and the post-forum wrap-up right on KBLA Talk 1580 starting at 4 p.m. Pacific to 7 p.m. Pacific. All right? That's all we got. Look, we have a live audience here. We love that. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Fiery speeches marked MLK Day in New York City as leaders at the National Action Network Forum linked Dr. King's legacy to current power and justice concerns.
We got a hater in the White House, haters in the cabinet, haters throughout the Congress.
New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani criticized ICE while Reverend